use this in the beginning. All right, good evening. Today is October the 21st. Right now it is 7:30, and I'm calling to order this evening's meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. For the benefit of those who have not participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission, our procedures are as follows. The Secretary will read the legal notice of the meeting as published in local newspapers. The applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of the property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. First, there will be clarifying questions from the Commissioners, and then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Next, we'll ask those who want to support the application to come forward, and second, we'll ask those opposing the application to come forward. As this is a public meeting and must be recorded, it will be necessary for speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and address before addressing the Commission. The applicant will then be free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing, the regular meeting, during which time the Commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the Commission and has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated tonight are the following members of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. We have George Underhill, Richard Wallace, Rich Meyer, Ray Bauer, Walter Corbiere, Tom Koss, Josh Hirschman, and Frank DeAndrea. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So someone's got to stand down. Who is an alternate? George, you're standing down on this meeting. You're going to be an alternate. Participate in all the discussion, though, please. All right, oh wait, I didn't introduce everybody. We also have Reggie Reed, George Crowell, and Lisa Brewer's taking the notes tonight. Shannon Gell's running the cameras. Mr. Secretary, please read the notice.
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on October 24th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center in the Whitfield Room on the first floor for the following purposes. Ocean Co. LLC, 485 Whitfield Street, Guilford, Connecticut. Map 29, Lot 108, Zone R3. Special permit change of use in detached garage for model shop office for scientists to facilitate research. Section 273-36A and Section 273-38B. Ocean Co. LLC, 485 Whitfield Street, Guilford, Connecticut, map 29, lot 108, zone R3, coastal area management application change in use in the detached garage for model shop office for scientists to facilitate research. Section 273.91 C, subsection 5H. The Cottage at Lake Quanapog, 286 Lake Drive, map 62, lot 11, zone R3. Special permit application for accessory apartment, section 273-19. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated this 30th day of September 2015, Richard Meyer, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
I just want to make a clarification. Does your notice say the 21st or the 24th? Because I thought you said the 24th.
21st on here.
Does your legal notice say?
21st.
Okay.
All set? Yep. Good. So we're going to be shifting around some things. We have a little, some things to get out of the way before we go into the big hearing for tonight. So first up, we're going to table. Someone give me a motion to table.
Second, I'll move to table the Cottage at Lake Quanapog to November 18th.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, good. That's now tabled. Someone talked to me about DDR. We have someone from DDR, don't we? I saw them here. Oh, DDR.
Good evening. My name is Megan Earhart. I'm an attorney at Hurwitz, Sagarin, Schlossberg, and Nuff. I'm here on behalf of DDR Guilford LLC, commonly known as the New Guilford Commons. And we are here, this is the second night of public hearing on an application that we presented at the last hearing on October 7th, I believe. And it is for a regulation amendment in order to do something which is very simple, and that is amend the Guilford zoning regulations to allow for adding Guilford Commons to the tower of the New Guilford Commons and to allow it to be internally illuminated, and also to remove one tenant sign from the back of the building. In order to do this effectively, it involves amending the Guilford sign regulations. So that's a very brief summary of what was presented at the last hearing. I'm here again for the second night in order to answer any other questions from the public and from the commission.
Thank you. Any questions? Any
Yes,
questions
sir.
from the public?
I do, Rich.
What you got?
You guys got Bed Bath & Beyond signed on a long time ago, didn't you?
The sign?
Bed Bath, no, the Bed Bath & Beyond was part of this project as of, here, wait, here, Rich, I'll just take the guy.
There you go.
You guys got Bed Bath & Beyond as a tenant a long time ago.
Yes.
Attorney Nuff mentioned that Bed Bath & Beyond really prefers internally illuminated signs like the ones that you're proposing here.
Okay.
When you signed them on, you hadn't yet proposed your zoning regulations to us.
This amendment here? The one that's
You
in
hadn't
tonight?
yet proposed. Currently, we've already approved signage for this tower as it stands right now, just
Correct.
without internal illumination.
Correct.
When we approved that, you already had Bed Bath & Beyond as a tenant.
So the internal illumination is for the Guilford Commons, correct?
Right, and all the other tenants line too.
Yeah.
It's a national requirement for all the tenants that, for better,
It's a requirement for the tenants that have already opened.
well, we are endeavoring to make this happen for them, to get better presence.
So what do you mean by requirement? A requirement in order to sign the contract to
Branding,
the...
that's how they handle their marketing.
And also, this is a unique location in that it's abutting 95, and so a big part of the project is accessibility, visibility for Guilford, for cars driving down 95.
Not really visibility for Guilford, right?
No, but the sign Guilford Commons signals to people passing by that they're entering Guilford and they're driving through Guilford. And so...
That's right, and now Guilford is an internally illuminated Bed Bath & Beyond sign.
Exactly, and so, but that's
Exactly.
In order to have that happen on the tower, that's part of as the years have gone by in developing this project, that was an
This
idea
was
that
this
came
year,
to change.
Counselor. That way you approved this. The current regs, that was this year,
No, I understand,
in
but
2015.
then I also to add the Guilford Commons and those things, so.
So when the initial one was proposed by a different attorney who's not here, it wasn't actually good enough for the tenants that had already signed on to the project.
Whether or not the tenants had signed off on our proposed regulations that we proposed earlier, I don't know. But I do know that this application that has been made today is at the request of tenants and in furtherance of our idea to add Guilford Commons onto the tower. And this is the best way to do it for visibility and appearance and those things. And which is why also we have proposed, while we've proposed internal illumination, we've added a restriction to the regulation which restricts the luminosity of the internal illumination. So while it will be a change, it's a pleasant appearance.
That's a pretty standard level, though, that you've got.
But it's a secure level that you know it will hit. it won't go any brighter. You can assure that going forward.
Right, but we also have a lot of Michaels and a lot of Fresh Markets and a lot of Bed Bath and Beyonds. I guess we can make that plural at the end of the sentence, Bed Bath and Beyonds, that don't actually have internally illuminated signs because the towns just decided that it wasn't for them. And I guess I'm wondering whether or not you think Guilford is more like those towns that decided it wasn't for them, or more like Milford and the other towns that have decided to go with which one? Hong Kong.
So
We're not gonna, we won't bring Hong Kong into that. I guess I just did. That's kind of double speak, but.
Focusing on Guilford. I didn't
Focusing on
interrupt. So the regulation currently says that all signs shall be internally or face illuminated. The only issue tonight is whether tower signs can be internally illuminated.
Right, because you got a special approval for a very specific tower sign that required an actual diagram to be inserted into our zoning regs.
Exactly.
And so that ended up being an incremental change towards this that perhaps you wouldn't have gotten all at once. So for instance, if you had come to us originally back when you had Bed Bath & Beyond first come to you and say, we really prefer internally illuminated signs, and if you, Attorney Nuff, had come to us for the 47th time and asked us to redo our zoning regs to include internally illuminated signs on towers, both of which were, sort of rare concepts for this town. That may have been a bridge too far, but here you've broken it up into two parts, where first you presented a sign that would be much more palatable to a much larger percentage of the Guilford population, and now you're adding an additional step to it, now that you've, sort of locked down the first half.
If this is what you're implying, this wasn't an intentional strategy to get an internally illuminated.
It doesn't matter whether it was an intentional strategy.
Yeah, my acquaintance with the case is I understand that this has been a number of returns to this commission for gradual changes to the plans and as the development progressed. To the extent that they came earlier this year to change the regulations, it wasn't to pull a bait and switch with Bed Bath & Beyond for us to come tonight to try to get it approved. It was just a natural progression.
So you're fine with the sign as it is?
No, well, we would, meaning how it is currently under the regulations?
Yeah, we've already given a very elaborate approval that includes an insertion of an entire diagram into our regs, which, as you know, is kind of rare for us, that supports this tower.
No, I think that it would be even better. What you have in the regulations could be even better if you allow for this slight change to allow for Guilford Commons and then the 3 limited approved tenants to be allowed on the tower.
Would be even better.
And so you guys, the other thing I just wanted to ask you, I guess, because I guess we've hit the wall with that. Do you have an opinion about what time this sign could be turned off?
So I believe under the current approval, they have to keep their signs on as long as the stores are open. So
Have to keep their signs on as long as the stores are open, or different than must turn them off when they close?
So the practice is to turn them off an hour after the stores close for safety, so that employees can get out safely, all the lights and signs are on.
These signs aren't really providing safety light, right? I mean, the signs aren't, you're talking about the street lights, the parking lot lights, not the glowing highway lights, right?
Well, I mean, I guess that is a matter of opinion, but I personally feel safer walking across the parking lot when it's still, visibly open to the public, and that includes the signs being on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is that time of night?
I think it's flexible.
Seasonal.
It's flexible and seasonal.
Yeah.
I mean, we can establish those with the city.
It was touched on at the last
It
hearing.
was, yeah.
But the hours of operation.
And so
Yes, we'll have increased hours for the season, but it's
Right.
like an hour after close predominantly for
So an
people
hour after the close is 11?
They have to close at 10 now.
Well, they could be open until midnight, so these
Yeah,
signs could be on until 1 a.m.
So we could be talking about 1 a.m. most nights,
Not most nights, but some nights, yes.
some nights. at your discretion.
Walter, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you just, I don't know, like I think about, do these signs face any residential properties that you're aware of?
No, because the one sign faces the Land Rover, the other sign faces the
95.
Boston Post Road by the beverage store.
Yeah, the exit.
So this would be predominantly visible as you come off the exit ramp. The first thing you'll see of Guilford is these signs that are lit up. And whenever you're traveling down US Route 1, because this is hanging right above US Route 1, you would see this first when you're going through that part of town. Is that correct?
Yes.
But would it keep any residents up? Because,
I don't think so. I really, we had residents behind the shopping center, but nothing, the Land Rover, and then we had that beverage store with the pet store that just opened right there. I don't think it's an issue.
All right, well, we can get to it in discussion, but this is just questions right now.
Will it be additional towers if more tenants come in?
No, our
At the other end?
our proposed regulation is the diagram, which only.
This is it, the one and
So if we
only
wanted to add a second tower, we would have to come back again.
Okay, what's the height of this tower?
Oh, I can.
Second tower.
We have to.
First I've heard of that.
No, she's saying that they would have to come back if they ever did.
Right.
So I don't think she's saying they're going to put one in, they'd have to come back for the site plan.
Let's just questions, let's focus on it, and then we'll talk about it.
well,
You're looking for the height of the tower.
You can get you the height, I don't have it on my.
We don't have it on the side.
You don't know how high?
But that it meant, it's the code.
There. So
It's the code?
Okay.
Can we verify that? George? The height of this signage is the code? Yes. Okay, thank you.
My question, I thought when Mr. Attorney Neff was here the last time, that this was about just the Guilford Common sign.
No, this is the tenant signs, and they're going to give up Michael's in the back and put Michael's out on the tower.
Okay.
If you want me to show you on the diagram, I can do that, but it's two issues. There's currently a tenant on the back wall, and we would be removing that tenant and putting them on the tower, and then also adding Guilford Commons at the top of the tower.
So they're on the one that's front lit, those names are on that sign? Because I can't see them from here.
Correct. It's Michael's Bed
It's the
Bath.
same sign, it's the same tenants that are on that sign that would be on the backlit sign.
Well, we have a fresh market, that's not going to go on the tower, but we have Michael that's proposed to go on the back wall. Instead of going to the back wall, it's going to go on the tower.
So is the other tenant over there, Bed Bath & Beyond, they're taking their back sign down too?
They don't have it.
They don't have one?
Fresh Market is.
They were always on the tower, but it was not moving.
So to make it apples to apples and oranges to oranges, can they take down their front sign? Is that something they would be amenable to?
No, okay, they have the identity sign in the front of their space, the tower is just additional frontage.
So if we were to leave the regulation the way it is right now, those names are up there, but they're front lit.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's right.
And Guilford Commons is not there. There's no Guilford Commons, and then the three tenants are front lit, yes. Or face
Okay.
illuminated, I think technically
Okay.
it's called.
So,
Yeah.
is anybody actually, is there a reason, is anybody actually calculated the lumens of the backlit lights versus the front-facing lights?
I don't know the wattage of the face.
No.
But as I said, for the internally proposed, the 13.2 watts per square foot.
Which is lower than what the front signage would be. It's a lower wattage, lower lumens on the tower sign. And I think that was a requirement by
Guilford Commons, the way it's currently set up, would be lit the same way that Clinton Crossing is lit. Clinton decided not to go this route, except on a few individual signs elsewhere.
You mean the Clinton Crossing sign It's backlit?
is the one that is the towers are similar to the ones that we've currently approved.
Okay.
You know, I think I saw one in the lit signs, the internally illuminated ones. I think I saw that in a mall in Bridgeport. It didn't look that
We
terrible.
didn't see that in the mall in Bridgeport. All the Bridgeport malls certainly do have the one that they're asking for tonight.
Well, I also just want to stress that this isn't a box sign that's internally illuminated where you have the standard, it's white and it says CVS, not to down CVS, but it says CVS and it's just a box and it's glaring. This is something much softer where you have each word individual with glowing light behind it. So it's a much softer appearance, much more appealing, and less jarring when you drive by, which is the goal here, that we wanted it to look nice and appealing, but yet
Almost as
visible.
unjarring as what we've already approved.
Just almost. Okay, let's move the questions along. Frank, anything? Josh?
I have one more question. Have you received any comment from the public, like any people who wrote letters to you that's had a problem with this?
Nothing to us personally.
And we don't
The
have
comments at the last hearing were very supportive.
Yeah, we don't have anything on file either, right, Reggie?
This was reviewed by the design review committee and they recommended it.
Anything else, Tom?
No.
Walter?
I turned this off, so anybody
Ray?
needs it.
No, I'm all set.
Anything else, gentlemen? All right, anyone in the public care to comment or ask questions, or probably not? All right,
We close the public hearing, this portion of the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So do you want to deliberate this and get this out of the way before we move on to the next things, please? All right, fine.
Unless you review either audio tape or videotape of a public hearing meeting.
We're going to discuss that extensively.
Okay. So that means unless somebody watched the videotape, you're limited to the small group that was at that meeting, which includes Phil. He's here at this hearing. He can vote if you want him to, or if somebody testified, or if they certify that they tell us that they saw the tape, then they're okay.
Okay, so,
It's got to be the tape, not the minute.
Well, it can't be the minutes, it has to be the tape. Or the audio, it has to be the complete
watch the
record.
tape. Watch the tape. What? You
No, I
were-
was here. For this?
No, you weren't.
We had that another time.
No, this was at the last meeting.
Don't be confused with, there was also an initial kind of informal presentation and
Correct,
discussion of this.
But the last meeting, there were only...
Which is not the public hearing.
So this was brought up at the last meeting, I was not here.
Right.
Okay.
So, watch the tape.
I did watch.
Watch tape. Okay. Watch tape. Oh, you were here? You're not in, and I was here.
we have enough people to vote?
We have 1, 2,
Yeah, well, Phil was here too, you could vote for
4.
this.
We have 4.
Phil could be seated for this, right?
If he wants to. Bill? If you want me. We always want you. Phil Johnson, let's give him a hand. Thank you, Phil. Good work. Phil is joining us. He's going to be seated for this particular deliberation. You heard everything that we talked about.
I did.
So the people that are eligible to vote for this is Bill, Walter, Ray, me, and Rashard.
Wait a minute, I was here at the last one.
That's true, too. Would you like to vote?
I'm supposed to follow it through. It's the way in the standard regulation read. If you sit in on a meeting, you're supposed to follow through. So the guy you replace can't vote on it.
Right, so you can be in on this.
That's right.
That's great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So we have...
Up to 7 can vote, right?
You get
Good.
a quorum.
Right, so good. We have 6 of
We have
us.
6 people who can say.
So let's, does someone want to make a motion, then we can discuss it, or,
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve. There's no text to it.
Well, I mean, what we can say is that they approve an amendment to the zoning code to modify section 27306B3 to read as follows: all signs shall be either internally or face illuminated. If face illuminated by exposed light fixtures, the fixtures shall be of a decorative design and support the overall design intent of the development. Monument signs shall not be internally illuminated. Tower signs may be internally illuminated, provided that the maximum permitted illumination will be 13.2 watts per square foot. This amendment is approved based upon the finding that it's consistent with the plan of conservation and development, and this amendment is effective October 30th, 2015.
On my motion, I would like to also include that the lights shall be turned off no later than 11 p.m.
Fine with me, if you want to include that.
I don't know if that can go through for safety, if these stores are open during Black Friday and other issues.
Well, they can get variances for that kind of, I mean, they said it would be very rare, so.
Well, I don't know if they get a variance.
No, I know, just to have them come back for a variance is not fair.
We have a motion before us, and we can see if someone will
Yeah.
second it, and then we can discuss it. It's not hashing out at this point. So,
11 p.m.
so Walter has a motion.
This amendment is approved based upon a finding that it is consistent with the plan of conservation and development. This amendment is effective on October 30th, 2015.
All right, so just to be clear, what we're talking about is all the things that Ray spoke about, and Walter has added in an 11 p.m. curfew for the lighting of the sign that has the advertised names of the stores, but not the safety
The
lighting.
sign under consideration, that's right.
Okay, good. So does anyone care to second Walter's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so let's have a discussion. What do we think?
I think by being in the retail business, we need as much illumination as possible when people are on the premises. I
Okay.
mean,
People will be on the premises
But
on the
Walter,
other side.
let me
Oh,
finish.
okay. Yeah.
People work in those stores not exactly when the stores close. And people can be in there for 1, 2, they could have stocking crews in there to midnight or longer. That's why they had proposed to go an hour after work, and they will be going for extended hours, and I do not believe it's fair to make the applicant come back for another variance just because they're extending hours for a seasonal time.
Okay.
Richard, help me out here. This is for the tower sign.
I know, but the entire,
They
tower
couched it that somehow the
faces
sign
the-
being illuminated will offer greater safety to the employees.
The
of
illumination
plaza.
going out toward 95 will help
Right, the
safety
tower
going into the
facing-
parking lot?
Right, somehow.
Facing the trees and Route 1 and 95.
That's what she testified.
Just to make totally clear, there's already a restriction as a result of the original approval that all the signage, the security signs have to be off 1 hour after the stores close.
That's
Right, but
correct.
that floats. They could be open till 1 in the morning, so the signs could be on until 2.
That's right.
Now,
So-
is this amendment intended only for the tower sign?
That's the only thing under discussion, yeah.
The 11 p.m. is only the tower sign that would have to be turned off by 11 p.m.
Correct.
Okay.
Presumably, it would also, if it were earlier, have to be off sooner, an hour after close, if closing was 8 o'clock.
Right. That's never going to happen. So,
I mean,
what do you think, Ray?
well, I'm in favor of it. I think the restriction that's been proposed in Walter's motion is a little bit too severe. I don't have a problem stating that I don't think we have to say anything, and it'll have to go off at 1 hour after it. Now, if this was facing into a residential area or polluting that area with light, I think there might be some merit to limiting it, but I don't see a problem with having it consistent with all the other lighting on the premises, especially since this is not going to impact any residential areas.
Ray, do you think that it provides any safety to the employees in the stores or in the parking
I
lot?
don't know, but I'm not basing my decision on safety. I think for consistency and the fact that there already is a restriction as to how long it can stay on, and the fact that it's not causing any problems in the residential area, whether it's for security or not is of no importance to me, I think.
Gotcha.
There's already a restriction on how long it can be on, and I think it makes sense. Just you want to illuminate it as long as you can. We should be encouraging it to do as much business as possible. Being as successful as possible to continue to provide us with property taxes. So I don't see a major problem with this, especially the limited amount of lighting, and especially if it was polluting a residential area, it's a different story. But
This sign doesn't change our property taxes.
no, but it can get more people to shop there and encourage more stores to come in and to stay open longer, which will generate more income for everybody and more income for any workers there, hopefully some of which work in town.
So I'd like to say something.
Sure.
So, when this first came across, this was really controversial, the rock pile development, and people were up in arms, and meetings went on, and emotions were raw. And the way that we got to approval was to make it really special and attractive. That's the way we got there. You know, we talked about it not being, it was going to be a lifestyle theme, it was going to be a New England village. And then little by little, as times changed and the economy got bad, we scaled back. You know, one of the citizens that is in town was talking about how the west side of town is really changing. And change is going to come, but we want to manage that. We have a tractor store which got approval from this commission for a certain size sign, and a month later they're down at ZBA getting a bigger sign, and they got it. And now we have our friends at DDR who want to change the rules yet again. You know, they were here a couple months ago. They had some really decorative, beautiful lighting in the parking lot, and they played the same safety card and threw out that it's going to be safer if they're allowed to use cheaper lights, and detracted from the appearance. And we said okay to that because we wanted to get those taxes in, and we wanted to promote business, so the cheaper lights are going to be good. And it bothered me a lot, but I said, you know what? At the end of the day, that doesn't matter too much. But this matters a little bit more. And it matters because when people come into our town, it's real important to me that they think highly of us. I don't want them to think they're in Bridgeport. I don't want them to think they're in Hong Kong. I don't want them to see cheesy signs. And I believe that the way that that's presented and the way that it looks with Guilford Commons written out, I don't want people to know that they're in Guilford because they saw a green lit up sign on a shopping plaza. I want them to know that they're here because it's beautiful, and I want them to know that they're here because this is a place that people want to be, not necessarily something on a sign in a shopping plaza. So this matters to me, and this really troubles me. And you know, I went there today. I went there at 8 o'clock to go to the grand opening of the grocery store. And it was thrilling, and it was great, and people were happy, and there was stuff going on. It was wonderful. And I went away saying, you know, this is really terrific. This is the future of the way shopping is going to be, and it's great. And I went back after work to pick up something for dinner because, you know, I needed to eat and it looked good. And I saw one of those signs that we're not allowed to have in town that blows in the wind. It's those big wing signs, and it said DSW. And I thought to myself, wow. They never had a meeting with their tenants and said, look, there's some things you want to do. It's Guilford. You know, you can't just do all this crazy stuff. Yesterday we had a citizen complain to Reggie because a banner sign was up that had no approval. Reggie took care of it right away by calling them. But beyond that, on social media I became aware of someone who was up till 11 o'clock last night because they were rushing to get stuff done for opening and they didn't have enough time. And so they were running their backup alarms on their equipment and they were putting dirt away or doing whatever they were doing. Little regard for the neighbors. And what do? Do we reward bad behavior? I can't even count the amount of times that we had equipment backed up on someone's street so they couldn't even use their street. The plowing, blacktop equipment, you had to deal with that. And the amount of times that we had to tell them, look, the curfew is whatever time, 10 o'clock or whatever it was. And so there's been a constant stream of complaints, constant, since they've been doing their thing. And it troubles me whether we reward bad behavior in this town. I serve on another commission. We had someone over on River Street decide that in the most environmentally sensitive area in town, they were going to plow it open, dig it up, and just do what they wanted to do because they didn't have to check in. And they got caught. And they had meetings and they had applications. And that commission decided to reward them by giving them a permit. So I am really sick to death of rewarding bad behavior. We do it all the time. In this case, we're going to do it on the basis of the application. We're going to say that this sign is somehow or another going to be safer for people to walk into the parking lot. Come on. There's adequate lighting. They said that it was going to be safe. If we gave them permission to use the cheaper lighting, it would be safer then. So now, what's the next safer thing? What are we going to cut back on next? What appearance are we going to say, you know what, it doesn't really matter? In this case, they got their approval because they had a sign that made the place look classy, as best as that place could look classy, and it got through a gauntlet of people who didn't want it there based on certain criteria, and that was its appearance. As I said to Attorney Nuff, y'all may convince the other commissioners to vote and do that. I will never change my mind on this. I think that we have given enough, we have downgraded enough, we have given up on appearance enough. If somehow or another not having that sign costs this town an additional $50 in taxes for the year, you know what? We can afford $50 to not have it look like Hong Kong. That's all I have to say now. You probably want to say something too.
Well, no, I just think you may be predisposed on this application and not wanting to grant it. I'll also say that design review did approve it. I don't think it's cheesy. You got to remember the design review committee did approve this. In addition, I don't think this is an unreasonable request. With regard to bad behavior, the fact that some contractors backed up equipment on somebody's lawn has nothing to do with this application, and it's not germane. We're not rewarding bad behavior. We're taking this application on the merits for what's before us. It has nothing to do with some contractor who backed up on somebody's property, and I think to add that in as a consideration is improper. So,
Ray, do you believe that putting in that tax revenues might be increased or that the business might possibly somehow last for longer?
Yes, I do. I think to the extent they're able to advertise and draw more consumers into that, that's good for the town, that's good for the business, and that's good for the employees. It keeps more people employed, it keeps the business there longer, and it keeps potential for tax to come in. So I do think they should be allowed to advertise the business.
You think that the business will be there longer and they'll do more business because those signs
Yes,
are
I think
lit up?
there may be people, well, why else are they doing it? For their health? They're only doing it
What about
for
the
because-
aesthetics? What about how the place looks?
I don't think, the design review said it looked okay.
But they're advisory. They don't have any real standing. They advise us what they think.
Rich, I know you don't like it. You made the point, okay? I disagree with you. We're not going to change.
And that's fine.
Okay?
That's perfect.
But I'm just telling you that your advisory committee, which many times you said we should listen to, said that we should, it's
And
fine.
many times I said we shouldn't listen to it.
No?
They
Okay.
also advised
They said
that
we should.
that the lights in the parking lot were fine the way they were. And when DDR came back for those, the shoebox, the unfortunate shoebox lights that are there now, they didn't ask the design review committee. Suddenly the design review committee was no longer important. The design review committee was only important on the front end when they knew they were going to get the right answer.
I don't
And on the
agree.
back end, they changed it.
We're just kind of splitting hairs here.
I don't agree with it.
This applicant, in
You do agree
fairness,
they didn't go to the design review
I don't
committee when
remember
they
if
changed
they
it.
did, if they or didn't. I don't know if they had to, if there was a requirement. And as I recall, there was less light spillage than what was proposed, and there was a lot of concern about light spillage for the reptiles. And in this case, there was less light spillage, so there was benefits to doing it, even if you don't particularly like the design. So I don't know if there's much more to talk about.
I was right on target with you with the design review has signed off on it. How many times have we remanded something back to an applicant on some project to go to design review, including the dumpsters there up in the little store in North Guilford? But in history, this applicant has been, the age of this project goes over time, and things change, and technologies change. And the way of illuminating's changed. We can't go on further and split hairs over this.
The way of illuminating hasn't changed this year.
Well, all right.
Yes, it has.
Well, that's true. I guess that is true.
Let's get to the
Yeah,
bottom
let's
line. Are we settled on this discussion? We have all expressed our feelings? Yes, 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 yes.
Do we have a motion on the table?
We do have a motion.
We do.
Okay, so this motion that we're about to vote on
Okay.
is to approve this internally lit lighting signs, and that they will get turned off no later than 11 p.m. as a curfew. So yes to the signs, yes to 11 p.m.
Say yes to the sign and a no to the curfew, because I believe in a parking lot of this size, you've got to consider it from a safety factor. If your wife or a daughter or whatever might be walking out there late at night after they close, you wouldn't want her walking around in the dark, would you, to the car? So I was very much against curfewing their lighting.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I would say that if the motion, in respect to what you're saying, if the motion doesn't carry, that a new motion be submitted without that requirement.
Yes.
That the...
Robert's
Take
rules.
them off at 11.
Fine.
You're welcome to make that motion. All right. All those in favor of approving this motion, which is to allow them to illuminate the signs but turn them off at 11 o'clock, all those in favor of that? None.
Well, then I'll make a new motion, same as Walter's, without the fact that they need to be turned off at a certain time, that they conform to what the regulations are for the rest of the lights. So anyone wants to second it?
Second.
Okay, we have a second motion without the curfew. All those in favor of approving the lighting signs without a curfew? 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? 3. It goes down, ties the blues. Any other motions? Hearing none, the matter's closed. Thank you. Bill, you're back now. Okay, number 2 is going to be continued. Mr. DiFilippo.
We have an updated memo from Dennis Johnson on this subject.
Give it up.
You want me to read it in? You have it in front of you? I can read it in. Actually, he didn't, he neglected to change the date on the revised memo, but it is dated today. It should be dated today. I think you have that in your packet.
Yes. Can you see it? I don't know
You actually, it has Kevin McGee's memo on top, which you'd actually read before.
Oh, here it is. This is Glenn Gephardt.
No, this is regarding DiFilippo.
This has got to be the Dennis Johnson one. Oh, more. Okay, good. So who wants to read these? You don't have them?
Which is it? We have to open it.
Oh, we just open and table?
We have to
You
reopen.
don't have to read the Kevin McGee, because you did that before.
I think we have to reopen it so we can get this into the record.
Yep.
So all the staff actually needs is a motion to reopen and a motion to table, right?
Sorry, no, this is ready to act on.
No, we're not tabling this. We're going to
I thought we were going to finish it.
I can read this in.
Let's have the motions open.
I'll make a motion that we open it up. Second it.
All those in favor? Go ahead.
All right, 2, Planning and Zoning Commission from Dennis Johnson, Director of Health, dated September 30, 2015. In follow-up to the Commission's request for more information regarding problems with productive wells in the Sunset Ridge Little Meadow Road neighborhood, a review of well completion reports for 18 private wells was conducted. The survey revealed current well yields ranging from a low of quarter gallon per minute to 18 gallons per minute. In general, the well yields in this area are low compared to other Guilford neighborhoods. Consequently, many of the lower yielding wells had to be drilled to a deeper depth, 565 to 900 feet. In order to provide more well column water storage and comply with minimum well yield requirements, 4 properties have more than 1 well located on site, and 3 wells that had become non-yielding had to be hydrofraced in order to restore adequate water yields. Water quality issues with elevated magnesium and iron have occurred in this neighborhood as a result of natural geology and bedrock blasting in the past. Many residents have installed water softeners which effectively remove hardness. The aquifer in this neighborhood and throughout most of Guilford is comprised of bedrock. The size and abundance of fractures and fusions within the bedrock directly affect water storage and directly determines a well's yield. Yields can vary dramatically from lot to lot depending upon the propriety of the bedrock. If a low-yielding well is produced, it can be effectively improved by hydrofracking the bore hole with high-pressure water, which open cracks and expands fissures, allowing for more water storage and higher yield. Hydrofracking has worked successfully for many low-yielding wells in Guilford. In instances where fracking is not effective, some homeowners have had to deepen wells or drill more than 1 well to serve their home. The 320-foot deep well located on the DeFilippo property, which will become the well for the proposed new house, was hydrofraced in 1999 and produced suitable yield of 3 gallons per minute. On October 20, 2015, the DeFilippos hydrofraced and reactivated the remaining 320-foot well, deep well, which produced a satisfactory yield of 1.5 gallons per minute. This well will be used by the DeFilippos to provide water to their home. Developing a new well in the established neighborhood is unlikely to affect the yield or water quality of neighboring wells. Nearly all well water removed from the shared aquifer is discharged back into the groundwater through a septic system, thereby completing a water cycle. In addition, Guilford stormwater regulations require new homes to install rainwater recharge systems, which reduce water runoff and increase aquifer recharge. Conclusion, the development of adequately yielding wells in bedrock aquifers can be effectively achieved by drilling deeper high storage wells, installation of large hydroponic storage water tanks, and utilizing hydrofracking methods where necessary. The development of a new well within the Little Meadow Road community served by a septic system is unlikely to diminish the availability or cause a net loss of water supply to other wells. Well, that was very helpful. Considering the problem that we had with this.
The last sentence
About Mr. McGee's letter.
the key.
I reviewed the plans for the proposed subdivision at 1282 Little Meadow Road. The slightness for the proposed driveway, sight lines for the proposed driveway entrance will require the removal of trees and brush within the town of Guilford right-of-way to Sunset Ridge Drive. Prior to any tree and brush removal, a tree removal permit is required from the town of Guilford tree warden.
Great. Just a real quick thing to explain to everybody what's going on. We had an applicant a couple months ago wanted to put a house up, subdivide his lot, put another house in. One of the neighbors complained that there was inadequate water in the ground for these homes. We asked our health department to go and look at it and decide whether there was adequate water. That's the letter you just heard. And now we're going to decide whether or not we're going to allow the subdivision based on the fact that there is adequate water, which was really the only question. It met all zoning requirements. So do we have anything else? Do we have a motion?
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a re-subdivision application for Carmen and Nancy DeFilippo at 1282 Little Meadow Road, map 97, lot 60-2, as shown on proposed re-subdivision. 3 sheets dated July 25th, 2015 by Criscolo Engineering, LLC. The application is approved with the following conditions. The sightline improvement for the proposed driveway, including removal of trees and brush within the town right-of-way, be submitted to the tree warden for approval. This application is approved based upon the finding that it conforms with the zoning and subdivision code.
Second.
Okay. What other discussion do we need to have? This one we kind of beat to death.
The biggest issue was the water, and Dennis answered.
If the new well won't mess up other neighbors' water, and if it won't affect their water table, then whether or not their water table or whether or not they are having their own separate problems, this subdivision won't affect it.
And we have an authoritative opinion from our health department that it won't do that. So there's really nothing standing in our way as far as I can see. Do we have any other questions? All those in favor of approval? Congratulations, Mr. DeFilippo, wherever you are. Okay, one more thing to clean up.
Two more things. Two things.
Two more things.
118 Woodfield Street, and the applicant is here.
Right, I'm saying one more thing before the...
And then there's the Walmart trailers.
Ah, yes, Bruce is here. All right, so let's knock out the Whitfield Properties LLC. Can I get a...
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor? All right, so any questions? Here we are.
We're requesting a change of use to 118 Whitfield Street from personal services retail to office retail. Who are you? Betty Ann Romaine.
Your name, please.
Betty Ann Romaine.
Betty Ann Romaine. Perfect. Is this going to have a lot of traffic, a lot of...
Oh, much less than it had before. They're an archaeological consulting services, and it just says it's a cultural resource management firm specializing in the prehistoric and historic archaeology of New England and the Northeast United States.
Wow.
This really has to come before us?
This would be a sleeper, right?
It's a change of use, yes.
Yes, this is...
But it'll be retail and office.
So where will they park for this?
In the big parking lot behind the building.
Oh, there's a parking lot in the back of the building, right, got it. Perfect. Great answer. Anything else?
Do we have a motion?
I'm waiting for that.
I'll
motion.
make a
Hang on.
motion.
Housekeeping, Josh.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan application for a change of use from personal service to office for Whitfield Properties LLC at 118 Whitfield Street, map 40, lot 169, as shown on an application dated 8 October 2015. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code.
Second. All right, any other discussion?
Does it support, is there enough parking for retail?
Oh, yeah. there's-
Right, we did that with Chuck Reggie, right? It met all the requirements.
They have more parking than the beauty salon next door.
So parking is good? Any other questions? Any other? All right, all those in favor of approval? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Against, opposed, abstaining? Well said, ma'am. Thank you very much. All right, let's do Walmart real quick, and then we'll get down to friends with this other issue. Where's Walmart? Who's got Walmart? Bruce here? Come on down, Bruce.
I thought we changed this to every 2 years.
It's 2 years, it's been 2 years?
2 years, right? Perfectly good. What do you got, Bruce?
Hey, John. We submitted a plan for the same, we get the storage containers every year. We submitted a request to get them again this year, same timeline, same placement as last year. I'd like to see if maybe we could get 2 years on it.
Didn't we give you 2 years last time?
No, that was for the front sidewalk.
The garden stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't you say you guys were going to be completely out of storage containers, that Walmart had a company-wide policy, and that was the last time you guys were coming back to us
We've
for
been
that?
out for a long, we haven't had them in a long time in that location. I haven't had them in that
Yeah.
location. We haven't had anything over there since early spring.
Right. Yeah, it extended through until March, and then by March, you guys had them all out.
Yeah, we got them all out.
And then I just thought that you were done with this whole thing.
Well, what happens is when we get to the Thanksgiving time frame,
Yeah.
the freight flow for that week is really where we need it. And, the overflow from merchandise coming in, we need to sustain business
Right.
for the holiday,
Right.
is why we request that. Now, we requested the same numbers last year. I don't think we're going to need as many.
How many was that?
What's that?
How many was that?
It was 14 I requested last year.
Okay.
They're the standard truck size shipping.
Not making any bigger than 40 feet. Okay, I mean, it wasn't a problem last year as far as I know.
And you want them until, did you request until February again?
Yes, same timeline.
And the limit is 14 of them,
Yes.
and you'd like it for 2 years.
Well, what it is we need 12 at the ground level, and then we get two trailers that are drop shipments that are on wheels we empty those out and they're gone within 2 weeks.
Gotcha. And you want it for 2 years?
What's that?
You want it for 2 years?
If we could, yes, please.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the application as requested for a period of 2 years.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good luck in your new store. All right, so that being done, we don't have any other little housekeeping? Let's just jump in. We all ready?
We got time.
It's 8:20. All right, so can I get a motion to open the public hearing for the special permit portion of the Ocean Code? So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
You're up, sir. Or was ever up?
You're considering both of these, the special permit and the coastal site plan together as one application?
I wasn't going to.
Then they have to repeat the same thing again for the coastal site plan, or do you?
I'd like to separate them.
Okay.
This is just, so this is just for the special permit application.
Right. This is only for the special permit.
Seems like you do the special permit first.
If I could have a moment to connect them.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
I apologize to the members, I need to look behind you.
We're always covering our backs.
What you can do is project. Get down.
What could you do? If you don't mind, go ahead. Sugar. Where? Reason.
Here, give him another one.
Fine, man. Put everything I own into that bag. Still trying to become obese.
Big, huge LCD screen.
And then you ask why I like to be over here.
Yeah, I know. Healthy old man.
Well, it's the tower facing the road, so I don't want to get bumped down the road. Where's the Panera? This is the tower. Facing the road. Well, but now that I'm going as late as they want. They still have the old time. So we went as late as anymore. So it's pretty great.
My name is Charles Beckius. I am the Director of Operations for the Rothberg Institute. I'm here today with Michael Rothberg, as well as Counsel Peter Verdun. I have a little... I'll speak a little louder and try to aim in. I'll have to step over to advance slides as best I can.
You want to take one of these, maybe it might be easier.
I know our special permit has garnered a lot of attention, as well as other activities with Ocean Co. I'm going to try to go through a quick pitch as to exactly what's going on at the garage. I'm sure that will segue into plenty of questions on other activities. After I speak, I'm sure Michael Rothberg would like to also have a chance to speak before we open up to further questions. As many know, Ocean Grove purchased the house back in May of last year. We have made no exterior changes to the house. Ocean Grove owns the property. It is utilized by a company called 4 Catalyzer. Who's 4 Catalyzer? A question a lot of people probably have. It's a parent company located at 530 Whitfield Street that operates research and development, the operations of legal advice, HR, finance, IT, all of the non-R&D operations for those companies that are located in the building. There's 5+ additional companies in the building that do research. More are started all the time. Inside 530 Whitfield Street, we currently have 70 employees working there. There are also 8 more people who commute with some regularity from New York City. We have 16 contractors that come and go and stay in Guilford for a while. 45 Whitfield Street, we've outfitted it with 5 twin beds. Yes, twin beds, it's a little Spartan, but ideally they're working, not staying at the house. We give free housing to all of our guests. Interns can come and go, people who relocate. Really important for the location of the house because we can walk right back and forth from the train station. People don't have to rent cars. They can keep these sorts of hours that R&D people keep where they can work 20 hours, crash for 4, come back, go get a shower,
return to work and really burn the midnight oil as necessary. We have over 20 different people who stay at the house for some period of time. Obviously, there's only 5 beds. We don't want people to hook up more, but they do rotate out people in New York City, different crews back here. Overall, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had 22 employees move to Guilford, either to rent or buy a home. From the site plan, for those who aren't aware, the garage is the 3-bay detached garage side of the house. The house is 3,001 square feet. The garage is 526 square feet, less than 20% of the size of the house. It was under terrible disrepair. It had never been repaired from the last hurricanes. It had been restored to at least be a garage. We have gone from a wooden floor to a non-porous appropriate concrete floor. We've put FRP.
Just before you move on from the restored to be a garage, did you get a building permit to actually do that work on the garage?
Yes, we did.
And what was the date of that building permit?
I did not submit that. I'll have to look back into the town records to find where it's
So the only after the fact pieces of this, or you didn't come to planning and zoning for a special permit, and you didn't come to planning and zoning for a coastal area management?
Correct. We believed at the time that we did not require a permit.
But you procured it.
That we needed one. We immediately filed, and that's why we're here today.
But you procured a building permit from town staff?
For repairs, yes.
For repairs. Were the repairs described in the request?
Yes. I mean, if one were to come to look at the garage at the time, it had no center support and a wooden floor and it bounce on like a trampoline.
So the footings that are now present underneath the garage were a part of the application for the building permit?
That was at the time, and that's not what we're talking about today. We can revisit that if you'd like. We're talking about the special permit for the already completed renovations.
Right, one of the things that actually was done was that footings were put in, right?
Correct.
And so you got a building permit for repairs. Did those described repairs include those footings?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so the staff fails to refer this as a special permit application?
I'm not understanding your question.
Well, why don't we ask the staff?
Yeah, we can just ask the staff.
Reggie Reed for the record, I can answer that.
Just pass it down.
Just the
Okay, Reggie Reed for the record, zoning enforcement officer. They came before this commission with a coastal area management application to put the piers back underneath the garage, and the commission approved that. Then the building permit was approved.
Thanks.
The wall coverings are FRP. Make sure I don't have continued moisture problems. It's obviously very close to the water. Put in new windows. We even have safety cabinets for the storage of materials inside. It's been described in many venues as a machine shop. A machine shop comes to many people with a very specific mental picture. It is not a machine shop. It is a small model shop. The people staying at 45, please understand that these are very high-level engineers, like to work after hours, like to play, like to build. It is makerspace, which is not something we have a lot of in Connecticut. I only know of 2 locations that are advertised in Westport, Connecticut, and in Hartford. Oftentimes, these guys like to play on 3D modeling software. They like to play with 3D printers. They want to build models or build rocketry. I've got a few models I can pull out in a moment to show you the examples of the sorts of things they've been doing in their time. As discussion of makerspace, that's really where nerds go to socialize and do their kind of art and their thing. Other bands go and jam together. Sports guys go to the gym. Engineers build stuff. That's how they have fun. It's been described in many places as literally a gym for artists and engineers. There's two that I know of are only 3 years old. This is what the makerspace looks like in the West Court Library. The effort actually put it inside the library. You can see actually a number of children working on a MakerBot right in the front corner, and a different picture from another angle. It's actually an open frame structure in the center of the library. You can see the stacks around it. They have open workspace. People are assembling and building material. In our space, we have hand tools. You see a nice rack of lots of battery power to the wall. We've made sure to outfit it with tools that they would love to have. Next to that is a sandblaster. That's for sanding down material, make it nice and shiny and smooth. It's completely contained. It doesn't have any sand that comes out of it. Sometimes these things look bigger. We've taken very strong pains to make sure nothing leaves the space. We have the hard floor. Unlike the wooden floor before with slats that went right down into the water, we have sealed up. You open up the door, clear it, and all the sand is recycled and used continuously. The white box there is an ultra-quiet compressor for nice dry air to run a sandblaster. And the office space part, a docking space for 2 computers to run 3D printers, to run 3D modeling software where they can sit down and actually tinker on the computer side. Looking around the corners, the part that has given people the most concern, the brand is Haas. 012 mill, the other one was for office mill. This is the sort of thing you find in dentist offices for people when they make dentures. It really has a very small material space that it can actually work on. The reason it's physically large, the size of a refrigerator, is all of the additional tooling, so it can change the heads and drill bits on its own, and it's completely sealed inside of itself. You can come up to the back of it and take out a little drawer and empty out a bit of trash. So there are bits of machines and dust flying around. It's on wheels. This is the sort of thing people have in offices. It is not a machine shop where I'm making speed parts for race cars. And just looking around the corner to the center of the space, I have 2 benches for actually workspace. And you can actually see the little flammable cabinet to make sure even the tiniest of things like WD-40 is properly sealed and contained. The garage, it is not part of 530 Wakefield. It is not extra office space for us. I have a very large Procedural mill and multiple 3D printers in that building. This is space for the employees who are staying in the house to go play in their downtime. I don't want them playing in 530 Wakefield Street. Those machines are in use. They don't have time and space to go fiddle on those machines. They want to go back, take a shower, play, that's great. Inspiration Maestro, I don't want to ever give them an excuse to not work. Let them think, let them compose, come up with models. Fantastic. Other thing it's not much of a garage. I don't have snow blowers or lawnmowers or someone changing their oil. I don't have cans of gasoline or paint. We really cleaned up from the impact of the environment. We're very concerned about the locality, where we are, where we're situated, and how far away the water is. I'd like to grab a few of the models just to put them out, let you guys look at the sorts of things they've been fiddling with. A number of these were made on a laser cutter, so it does smell a little campfire-y. But please pass them around. This is a line holder, just because they felt like making one. Engineers, the other side, a lot of engineers are chemists. What do chemists love to do? Brew. What's that molecule? That is the molecule of red wine. Okay. In similar... They make this one. They also make their own beer. And they made a little presentation box, which includes, or a puzzle box with designs on it. That's all using the laser cutter.
Mr. Beckius, when did they make these?
I asked for, hey, what did you guys make me? And this is what they dropped off my desk this morning. So this is stuff they made last month, last night. It's a little funny looking over here. Let's hold this up. I said rocketry before. Ugly little bottle rockets out of 2 liter sodas. I'm sure many of your children have made them in science class, but they actually break out the actuator arms and all of the components, including the control box to launch. They went out to Jacobs Beach. They were seeing who could hit the target because they had some interns that wanted to give them a project to see how they could work. In the meantime, they got to play with machines, learn how the software works, learn what it's like to be an engineer. On the other side of 3D printing, we have a number of guys who love to mountain bike and do racing. They were designing custom iPhone holders that can fit to the appropriate size of the center column of their bicycles so that they could have the iPhones tracking their GPS while they were traveling around instead of having to pay whichever company for their custom version. I'm not sure, but I think they told me this was a clip to hold more Nerf darts while they were playing in the backyard. I choose to believe them and not ask more questions on that. I know there's been lots of questions around what are they really doing in there? They're making things. This is not a commercial operation where I have stuff that comes out of it. These machines don't make things of that accuracy or durability. Manufacturing and design happens in other locations. That's all I've got from my side. Michael, did you want to speak a little bit? Or do you have any questions specific to what I spoke to on?
There we go. Okay. My name is Michael Rothberg. I'm involved with Ocean Cove. I'm one of the principals. I want to take a moment and tell you a little bit about the Rothberg family, some of the companies we own and what we do, to give you a better understanding. I'm not a great public speaker. I apologize if I speak too quickly, too loudly, or too quietly. My family lives here. My brother lives here. My sister lives here. And more importantly, our mother lives here. So we are connected to Guilford. We're not here to change Guilford, to make it something that people don't want. I don't want to listen to my mother. My brother doesn't. We want to change Guilford in a way and move it forward that people don't see. That the change happens, but when you drive down the street, it looks exactly the same. A backstory about my family: I've been in Connecticut since the early 1920s, originally from a small town called Woodbridge. My family started a business. My father opened a factory in Bethany, Connecticut. I'm sure most of you know Bethany, Connecticut. It's a very rural town. My father believed it was a good place to live and work and build a factory to produce our products. No city sewer, no well. For 40 plus years, we have been in that small community. We built new buildings, spent over $20 million in 2005 in an area we could never sell that building. But it's part of the community. Leda Creek is the largest taxpayer, the largest employer, and a great contributor to the community. We understand what it is to be part of a community. We want to be part of Guilford. We're trying to be. People have said, well, why here? Why doesn't these guys go to the other side of I-95? It's about quality of life. It's about quality of work. It'd be much easier for us to have gone over to an office building, bought it for what we paid for some of our properties, had 20 or 30,000 square feet of space, and had no issues, no reason to come before any committees. But days of engineers, and these people we're talking about, going into a windowless cubicle and working all day are over. You look at Googles, the Facebooks, the companies in New York. We have to compete for that same talent. And if I try to put them in a place where their wives or their families aren't happy, it's not going to happen, and we don't exist. When we go down to Whitfield Street, when you go down to the water, these people love it. They walk out at lunchtime, they can have lunch at the restaurant, they can meet their families, go back to work, and change the world. So we want to be in an area, and our employees demand to be in an area now that offers more than just a cubicle. It's about their quality of life too. These people have somewhere to go at lunch, go back to work. They do, as Charles says, work hours that we cannot believe. I compete against the Facebooks, the Googles, that talent. I compete for those high-paying engineers. Those are the people we bring in. How does it benefit Guilford? How does it benefit us all? That's the question. Back in 2007, my brother and I started a company, mostly my brother, I give him credit, Iron Torn. That company we sold, still here today, employs about 75 people, 20, 25 of them live in Guilford. These are high-paying jobs. They live here, they work here, they shop here, they pay their taxes, their kids go to our schools. Your kids probably know some of them. This is what we do. We are part of the community. 530 Whitfield, Charles has talked to you about. The people there, how many people live locally. At 514, and if I may, the other property we have is all tied together. It's all of us. Our 530, our 514, 485, it's all connected because we need the synergies he talked about to make it a go. We have to be able to operate a business, keep our employees happy. We're looking in that facility to put in 40 to 60 more people in there in the next 6 to 18 months when we get the nod we can do our work. We're not asking to knock down the little stone house or the stone house. We're not asking to pave all the parking lots. When you drive down the street, and I'm sure many of you have, we're putting in new windows. You're going to look at them and go, they look like the old ones. Exactly. But now they're insulated. They open and close. They keep the drafts out. We're going to repaint the building. We've cleaned up the landscaping. We're not going to knock it down. We're not going to reface it. It will look like it always has, but inside will be 40 or 60 people doing marine research that are well paid and are going to support all of us. Whether you own a store on the Green, a store on Boston Post Road, you're a realtor, you have kids, we are a tax-paying company. We're not a nonprofit. We support local businesses. These are propeller heads and geeks. Look at the things they made. These people don't go to big boxes. They don't go to those places. They're going to go to Page's Hardware. They're going to go to Cilantro's. They're going to go to local businesses. We're not doing hard changes. I know that's a very big concern. We're not going to light the place up like a Christmas tree. We're not going to change things to change. We're trying to do internal. We're trying to make everything work so our engineers and our researchers could work, live, and play in a wonderful, beautiful community that they want to be part of. Those buildings, whether it's 485, it's 514 or 513, generally aren't going to sit empty. If it's not me, if it's not us coming to you, if it's not me telling you what we're going to do and asking you, then who is it going to be? Is it going to be someone who buys 506 and has the right to knock it down and build a new restaurant or another office structure there? Has to be 13 feet up or 9 feet up because of the floodplains? I'm here because we're good neighbors. When people say your lights are on or bothering us, we've covered them. When people say, I'd like to look at the stone house, we say, great, we're just going to fix it up and paint it. So you know what you have right here. You know we're a part of the community. My mother bought her house, my father, I think, early 80s. She moved to Guilford. We're here for this community. We're not here, again, to commercialize it. We're not here to grow for the sake of growing. We are financially stable. The buildings are maintained. They're always going to look good. The back lot of 506, we found out when we had the barriers up because construction zone and people were parking, it's a turnaround for the school bus. They came to us and said, you put barriers. We said, we're sorry, we didn't know. We moved them. Somebody's going to plow that this winter so the kids can safely get out of their vehicles, the bus, their parents can pick them up. We're going to maintain that. We're not saying, go away. If it's not us, who is it going to be? Who is going to be in 485? A three-car garage is pretty rare around here. Maybe it's a motorhead. He likes to work on big block Chevelles every weekend and every day. And every night, you got to listen to him firing that car up. We're not that person. Again, someone complained the garage lights were bothering them. We covered the windows. That is what we do. That is why we're here. And this is the quote-unquote change we're looking for. We're going to move forward, but at the same time, keep the charm and the quickness that makes Guilford so special. Guilford is unique. It is, we know that. But up and down the eastern seaboard, you have towns that didn't want to change, that didn't embrace it, or didn't embrace the tax base coming in. And they've become those quote-unquote New England mill towns. We don't want that. Let us bring in high-paying jobs in the same footprint, in the same building, in the same look on the exterior. The difference is you have people now that can shop, live, work, and play in the town. Continuing it. He's talked about 485. We want to talk about 506. We need your support so we can support Guilford. Charles? Anything? Again, I apologize. I'm not, a quintessential public speaker.
You sounded great.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks. All right. Is it okay if I examine the other samples that you've introduced? These are made of metal. Correct. And then machine.
On that,
this was done with a drill press.
they were obviously made to try to practice drilling holes.
So they have devices that can cut metal and tap and die.
That was better.
And that was cut. And machine that
This one was obviously just sanded.
well, clearly they must have cut it to something.
Right.
So they have machine working tools to cut metal.
Exactly.
Good. Thank you for presenting. It's great. Perfect.
Where's George?
Ran for the hills. All right. Presentation is concluded. We can ask some questions. Are we okay so far? Everything good? Good. Any questions you guys have?
I just wanted to clarify the cease and desist order from the middle of September. What was the date of the cease and desist? It was September 17th. I was just trying to figure out if work has been ongoing since the cease and desist. When was the appeal filed?
Within the time frame allowed.
So what was the date of that appeal?
We received the appeal Friday.
Right, this past Friday.
Correct.
And the time frame is 1 month, right?
Right. 30 days would have been Saturday. They have to appeal within 30 days.
Today is what, the 21st? Oh, okay, so you guys put it in on the last day, so during those 30, or the second to last day.
But they met the deadline.
We met the deadline, so so during that entire time period, the same work has just continued at that site.
It's not work, it's play.
The same play that was occurring before continuing.
We did file our appeal.
Right. Okay. I didn't hear any description of the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection investigation on, I guess that's on the garage site.
I'm not managing that component. There is a necessary certificate of compliance to show that the work compliant that is being obtained.
That's being paid?
Obtain.
That we've done the work, we need to prove that it was done in accordance.
Okay, so you've done, so the investigation began, you started doing the work, now you've done the work, and now so that investigation will be concluded soon?
I know from John Goucher's analysis that there is no proposed impact based upon this use. Are you speaking to a different?
Did you send that to us?
There are a few letters. Well, I could read.
We can put those in now.
I could read this. I'm just not entirely sure it's for the setup. This is from John Goucher, dated October 13, 2015. Kevin.
Can I interrupt just for a minute? You said you were going to consider the coastal application separately. So these comments are really related to the coastal application?
Yeah, I really wanted to get to that in a minute. I have, actually, I would like to talk about the special permit for a second. I'm a little confused, and I'm hoping you can clear it up for me. I'm sure you can. So you spoke about how there's 5 beds and that these guys work around the clock and that they're always burning the midnight oil, your words. When do they find time to play in this garage if they're doing all this work? It doesn't make sense. Weekends. So you're not using it during the week at all then?
I have guys who come in from Europe. I have guys who have different schedules. They're from West Coast. We don't dictate what their schedule is. If to one gentleman, Tuesday and Wednesday is his weekend, great.
Are you representing purely recreational use in this garage? Is that what you're saying? And that there is no production work, there's no prototype work on any of these machines for your business? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. If a eureka moment happens, serendipity. But that is not what it's built for. It's built for recreational use.
So
tools that are in there are not production tools or things that would result in any commercial.
Could they be used for prototype work for items the business may use? In other words, there are machine tools in there, a mill, a drill press. There are devices that could form that metal and tap and die. So these are typical devices that are used for mill work. And I'm asking you if these devices could be used.
I'm confident a company of a different kind could put them to some commercial use. There is no business at 530 Whitfield that would find that to be an interesting application. They are much more involved in electronics, and none of those are electronics. Those are mechanical engineers practicing 3D design, practicing how to use the tools.
Could you please go up to the mic?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Shannon's having a hard time hearing. So we're talking about whether or not these could be potentially used as machine shop tools. So you're asserting that this is purely recreational, it's not used for any type of prototype work?
I'm also asserting that that's not a machine shop. That's
right, the tools are.
Now, a machine shop is a very different animal. Those are tools. Please step back from the machine shop aspect of it, because that's a very strong word and a very explicit use. And I would see a very different characterization when you say machine shop.
There is a drill press.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, let me cut to the chase. So your representation is that that's for modeling, it's for entertainment, and it's not for production type capabilities. The fact that some of these machines have dual purposes is the fact they have dual purposes, but your representation is it's not used for commercial stuff. Now, if anybody has some evidence or any facts that contradicts that, we should hear it. Otherwise, I think they've answered the question and we should move on.
Thanks, Ray.
There are
Appreciate
a few
that.
other individual items that maybe we could ask about whether or not they're present in the shop. I think it's not appropriate to silence us as to...
Nobody's silencing you. They've answered the question, and unless you have something to contradict them via facts or evidence...
So are there metal cutting machines or welding?
There's no welding. Not at all. The OM2 mill can cut something. The bandsaw could cut something.
If I may, How many people here have automotive tools in the garage? At that point, could you not open a repair shop in your garage? You play with everything. This is what these guys play with. It's the same thing. They're just expensive toys. I mean, some of us have some, I'm sure, really nice Snap-on tool sets in our garage that you would find at any auto repair shop.
Okay. So the windows were papered over to reduce the light for people outside.
We responded immediately to complaints that we were working too late at the night, so we made sure that there was no disturbances.
But these individuals you're talking about specifically, these are not the kinds of guys that you put into windowless cubicles.
They're
just covered window garages.
In this case, our neighbors, they weren't. They were in a garage with windows. The neighbors came to us. So I could either say to the neighbors, go away, you have no right, or I can be a good neighbor and try to make them happy. It's basically what you're saying. It's a lose-lose for me. They go in there, they play, they go to sleep, they go back to work.
And these guys, there's a quality of life factor for these scientists working here in Guilford and for the other people involved. But they stay on 8 twin beds in
No, 5 twin beds.
5 twin beds in the Lyman Beecher house?
These type of people, remember, some of them are people, we're bringing people in that we want to hire.
Right.
So they have to stay somewhere. I can either go put them in a hotel or motel somewhere, or they could be close, go to work, get a feel for what's going on, jog to the green and see, have your family come and see what it's about.
They bring their families over from, so a lot of these guys actually come over from overseas and bring their families as well?
If they're going to relocate and move here, yes. And most of the employees, even if it's a twin bed, if I give you free housing for a month, don't seem to complain about that.
We have employees, again, it's us, it could be Google, it could be a company in New York, it could be Facebook, and it's different companies. We're competing for those people. And they do work the strangest hours. It's a different world. And when you see what goes on and how fast things change, when companies have been around and getting, for a year, 10, 15 employees, we offer $1 billion, and you're like, it's a different world. I didn't grow up. I grew up in a manufacturing business. A lot of capital. Now it's about brain power. That's the capital.
You know a lot about what kinds of materials can actually be milled or machined in this structure. Like what are the types of materials that actually can
Normally, it's acrylic or soft plastics, and you can do aluminum. Aluminum's pretty darn soft. Also allows for great recycling potential. We don't want to do anything hard metal of any kind. It saves the tools.
You understand, our zoning code doesn't, we're kind of a blunt instrument here, and our zoning code doesn't really allow for the nuance of some of the more caustic and or more destructive materials when it comes to ocean life and when it comes to
certainly, and that's why
community.
We made sure to install tools that are self-contained, that don't have. If I were to go to another location like Navtech Lumar and look at what's on the floor there and how those machines look, it's just markedly different.
But if we're not doing a view, then what?
I'm sorry, we're not doing the what?
I guess my confusion is these guys are engineers. They like to play with toys, as you mentioned. They have some relationship to some of your other very successful and or nascent businesses, and they're almost in the water in that garage. Like
not going to disagree with you.
I mean, the Lyman Beecher house is very adorable and et cetera, but it's more expensive than an option that is not in the water. So I'm confused.
It goes back to they can work there, walk across the street, walk back, sleep when they want to sleep. go back. It's about the entire being. If I bring people in, do I have to have them go rent cars? You know, we talk about the environment. They come on the train, they walk down to the house, they walk to work.
Well, a lot of them don't have driver's licenses in the United States.
No, we do bring some people. Most of ours are U.S. people, and they can use a driver's license from somewhere else. I'm sure many of us have traveled, and I appreciate your concern.
Yeah.
We're not dumping anything out the back. You know, it's not like, oh, flip the hatch open and dump. Again, if it wasn't me as a guy who worked on cars, then you might have some concerns that the oil's going straight down. Right. This is clean. There's nothing, there's no smokestack going up, no chips coming out the back. It's a clean, I would use the word, it's like a sandbox for these guys. That's what it is, in a polite term.
How about any noise from these, quote,
Just tools, I believe they're extremely quiet. Again, like the windows, if there's noise issues, I believe some of the guys were loud outside. We ask them to quiet down. Again, we don't sit to our neighbors and go, you know what, hey, have a nice time. We try to work with everybody. We want to be in this community. And again, my family went to a small town in 1974. We're still there today in Bethany.
Honestly, if the air conditioner is too loud, I'll move it to a different window facing another way. Just let me know if it's not okay. And take care of it.
The machine that's in there that is a little larger, I guess it's maybe, it's a machine that can make things inside it. Is that the same as the machine that my dentist has in his office to put made my denture?
Perhaps a different brand, but pretty much the same thing, yes.
Sitting in his office, doing its job, not bothering anybody.
So obviously that tool could be used for a commercial purpose if I were a dentist.
This mill is a digital setup. You put in the parameters and then put the thing in and it does its own thing.
Correct.
I want to ask staff a question because I'm unclear about something. George, this is probably going to fit in the home handicraft thing somehow? Is that what this is?
We have a pretty broad description of activities that are, for which a special permit is required in a detached building. It includes things that are called home handicraft industry. At one point in time, I think we used that terminology. It also includes offices in a detached building, includes workshops and studios. It could include also guest quarters. So all of those things fall within the same category of a special permit for the use of a detached accessory building. And this is proposed within that broad range of categorization.
So in a home handicraft setting, if, and I presume that to be like a small little wood shop, where they would have saws and planes and sanders and things like that. That's probably a home handicraft kind of thing. If we were to find that someone said they were going to have a home handicraft thing, but instead of a little device, they wanted to have something capable of much more, would that matter to us?
Well, the two aspects, I think the most important aspect of it is either the intensity of the use or the nature of the equipment that's actually used such that it's going to create either a nuisance or some adverse impact on adjoining properties.
So define adverse impact. Would it be something as simple as, like a home handicraft business would have the homeowner, one person probably going in there on a Saturday afternoon and making some things and playing and whatever. But in this particular application, they're telling us that it's around the clock. It could be at any time. That they have, did you say 70 people in there or?
No, we have about 70 people over full-time employees in our main building. The
office building.
Yeah.
Now, we only have X number of beds in that house.
So about how many people are in that house normally that would have access to this?
5.
So instead of one, they have 5 people.
Well, clearly the regulations were written with the idea of a more typical homeowner situation, and that the homeowner has either their office or their workshop or their studio, whatever it might be.
Right. So how do we justify that against a corporation that has employees?
Well, in this case, the nature of the residential occupancy, which is the primary use, is different than the typical one, because you have itinerant or transient residency. So it's not the typical homeowner situation where the person who lives there wants to conduct the office or studio purpose in the detached building. It's different, clearly.
So if our regular interpretation of our zoning code is that it's a residential use by, and I remember we asked Chuck about this, how would this fit into that definition?
Well, as Chuck explained when we asked this question before, our regulations with regard to what is a single-family dwelling, and this is a zone that permits only single-family dwellings. The way we've written our rules, the definition of a family is quite broad. It includes the traditional family, what we think of as a traditional family, people related by blood, but it also includes unrelated people as long as they're living together as a single housekeeping unit, meaning there's one kitchen. And that any situation in which a collection of people live together as a single housekeeping unit meets the definition of a single family occupying a single family dwelling. So the duration of time that they actually spend there is not specified in our zoning code. So whether they spend one day there or 1 week or 3 weeks or multiple years doesn't really matter. This type of collection of people living in this home does meet the definition of a single-family dwelling. So then when you have a use that's allowed accessory to a single-family dwelling, in this case you have an unusual family, if you want to think of it that way, and therefore the home handicraft industry or studio or office in a detached building is different than what would normally be associated with one individual or one household, one more traditional family, if you want to think of it that way.
So we can't consider whether or not this is a family nor whether or not this is a home handicraft, because if they're a family, then this would be a home handicraft.
You have to determine whether this is a home handicraft, and whether or not, you have two questions. Is this a home handicraft under your understanding of what's allowed, subject to special permit? And if it is, does it have some kind of adverse impact that makes it unacceptable in terms of the special?
So that's what this case comes down to, is the individual commissioner's interpretation of whether or not this, as it's presented, meets the definition of a home handicraft industry.
Or workshop or studio, whatever terminology might be applied, none of which are really precisely defined in the zoning code. So it doesn't meet the definition, and then if it does it have adverse impacts that make it unacceptable?
And that's at our personal discretion?
Well, it's based on the evidence that you hear in the public hearing.
Right, our interpretation of what they said.
George, so as a housekeeping unit, they are in fact a family under our regs?
Yes.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, George.
You were talking about home handicraft. It made me think of the context. If I were really into ceramics and the size of a kiln that is normal to have a little bit so I can sell things that are arts and crafts there, that kiln is quite large, and I'm sure that would impact my
Right, and conversely, if your hobby was, like you brought up race cars, or no, this gentleman brought, right, so, would we be okay with someone who had a lift and an oil rack and all the different things that they have in a garage, would we be okay with that as a home handicraft?
So there are two guys on my street who have racks and a lift. One has a pit, and one has a Ferrari, the other one has a Lamborghini, and they do all the maintenance themselves.
Those cars are gone. If I may, and this is from the zoning, the home handicraft industry, The person or persons conducting the industry shall reside in the dwelling, and there shall be no more than 2 non-resident persons engaged in the conduct of the industry. So we do fall under that. It's not about just having one person at a time. You know, these are people who reside in the dwelling, they go, they play. So we are trying to comply. And we really want to stress that we're not here, again, to do anything funny. We're going to try to show you this is what we do. It's part of the zoning. It's allowed, except whether it's a car pit or what have you, and we're compliant.
I have a quick question. The definition in our code of what a home handicraft is an occupational art requiring skillful use of the hands in production of articles. Can you relate your business to that definition?
Well, let's not use the word business, because it's not. I guess we can look at those things. That's what they do. That's art. What is art? So, yeah, it's not a business. That's what they make. That's their ticket.
And it requires skillful use of the hands in the production of those.
It's just not an industry.
Key is we're not running an eBay business out of it. The UPS truck's not packing up every day, loading up. They're playing and going on their way politely.
What else you got, gentlemen? All right, I want to open it up to the public then. Yeah. Questions first. Does anyone have any questions for these gentlemen? Sir.
Yes. Russell Campaign, 131 Boston Street. Do you know it's in a flood zone, is it an A zone, and what the floor elevation is of the building?
Well, I can't answer that explicitly.
Okay.
It's absolutely in a flood zone. We're pretty much at ocean level. I'm sure if I ask Reggie, she can look that up rather quickly from the site plan, or at an appropriate speed, not quickly.
You also have a memo from the town engineer that addresses that question.
Okay. I'm just curious if there are limitations on what the building can be used for, if it is meeting the height restriction on FEMA and change in use, taking it from garage storage to a use that's a higher use, it's not storage access or parking, I think would be under the floodplain management. I see your point. And that should be addressed in the plan as well.
I think actually it's less use as opposed to my car that's leaking oil or any other thing.
Well, the FEMA is very particular about what you can do underneath the base flood elevation. Spaces that are under that can only be used for parking access or storage.
So can you expound on that a little bit, please? Could you say?
Floor elevation.
Yep.
What's the floor elevation?
It's 6.2.
6.2.
And it's an A10?
Part of it is in a flood hazard zone, one corner of the garage.
If you read Jim Portlay's memo, I think it's like to hear it clearly.
What do you got?
I got Portleys. Jim's, I'll read it. This is to the Planning and Zoning Commission from James Portley, Town Engineer and Director of Public Works, dated today, October 21st. Reason Coastal Area Management Review. Is this the same one you're referring to, George?
Yes.
Your attention is directed to Kevin McGee's memo regarding the FEMA flood zones and elevations. Guilford's flood damage protection ordinance addressed in Chapter 174 of the Town Code adopted language and requirements of FEMA to guide public regulation of flood-prone areas. Given that the garage exists and that the application is to allow for a change of use to an office and workshop, it would be prudent to require the following. Require a structural engineer analysis and certification that the building is structurally capable of resisting wave action in the VE zone. 2, the architectural plans be submitted and a permit be secured for flood-proofing the structure as provided under Section 174-18.A, subsection 2 of the Code for Non-Residential Construction.
Thank you. So Russ, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means that it's a change in use, and it's being asked to change from what is applying use in the FEMA district that it's in, it's under the elevation, to something that under FEMA and what we adopted would be regulated. I guess I'm confused why only commercial structures can be flood-proof. Residential structures, you're not allowed to flood-proof under the FEMA program. So I guess I'm confused because the property is kind of being deemed that they can't have both ways. You can't flood-proof a residential property if it's an accessory use to the residents. Or if it's a commercial property, you can flood-proof it, as is being suggested there. But the house is not conforming.
So by nature of this letter, is Jim Portley considering this a commercial use?
That's the only way you can flood-proof. FEMA is very specific that commercial structures can use flood-proofing techniques if the floor is below the elevation, but residential structures are not allowed to flood-proof.
All right, so...
You have to meet the criteria.
So, and just so I'm clear, because, we're in a really boggy area here, Jim Portley has made a determination based on what his letter contains that this would be a commercial use, based on what's in that letter.
No, I can't say that he is or isn't. I'm just saying that the adoption of the floodplain regulations that has been adopted, which is 174 of the code, does state that floodproofing of commercial structures is allowed. I don't know how, I think it's up to you to make the determination as to whether this use is commercial or residential. But if it's residential use, it's not allowed to use floodproofing techniques, and that's written into 174.
So this is an enhanced use in a floodplain, though, and that's permissible?
Well, no, it's, I think the only reason that it's under your oversight is because it's a potential increase in use that is increasing potentially outside of what is written into our code as allowed, which is parking to storage and access to another building. That's what is written into for what can be allowed below the flood elevation, which I think is the main intent. So this is about 3.5 feet below the flood elevation, saying that basically as the storm, you could have treated water come through the building. And the point of 174 is that our town wants to minimize the impact of flood. I mean, that's the whole coastal resiliency study.
Right, exactly, and everyone worked hard on coastal resiliency. Well, thank you. I appreciate your guidance. Any other questions? We got two. Gentleman in blue sweater.
Yeah, I'm Edward Saylor.
Shannon really wants to videotape everyone, and I know, it's hard, but just come on up. We're all friends here. We're family, so just relax.
Okay, I'll start over.
There you go.
I'm Edward Saylor. I live at 446 Whitfield Street. And I have one question, and that is, how are we going to deal with this Connecticut DEP notice of nonconformance that's been filed because they were operating within the tidal wetlands? At this point, they need a COP, and they need to pay a penalty to DEP, which has not even been addressed.
Okay.
I think my position is they should get the COP and settle the penalties before you even consider this special permit.
Right, but you realize that with an appeal to the cease and desist already in place, they can continue using it until this finally...
I understand, but a decision on this shouldn't be made until we find out if we can even get a COP for the work they've done from the state.
Well, I can appreciate that feeling, but can you cite to any regulation or statute where we're required to do that? Because we can't just make the rules as we go along.
No, I understand that. I talked to Brian Thompson today about it. Okay. He said the state would stand behind that position.
I read John Goucher's memo to the commission. Dated October 20th, he addresses that particular question in his memo.
Can you paraphrase, or do you want to tell us what he says?
He basically says that that issue shouldn't affect your deliberation on this. Go ahead.
I'll read it from John Goucher, dated October 20th, to Kevin. We have reviewed the above referenced proposed change in use for consistency with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies and have no comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission consideration. As you mentioned, some work was conducted with the state's regulatory jurisdiction to repair the structure. The office's permitting and enforcement enforcement section is working to authorize the work, but that authorization should not impact the proposed change in use application. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need any additional information. John Gotcha.
So, no.
That means, as a matter of fact, the COP is going to be issued. How I read that letter.
I would too.
Which is contrary to what my discussion with Brian Thompson was today.
And Brian Thompson is who?
He's the director of the Office of Long Island Sound Programs.
Okay.
The only information we have from our environmental analyst is that we should not be hindered by...
We have a wonderful opportunity here. We recently adopted a second meeting requirement.
I understand that, yeah.
If you can get a copy of that, that would be pertinent, and maybe you could bring that to our next meeting.
Well, I thought this isn't subject to a mandatory second public hearing according to the notice.
I may want to. We can always elect to carry it to a second meeting.
We can make a motion to continue it.
So
But we could elect to do that, but it's not mandatory.
Right.
I mean, I think what's going to happen, though, is they can't do everything they want unless if they just get the approval here and they're waiting for the state approval, they're still in a wait state until they get that state approval.
In other words, you're saying they could not operate in the building?
Well, they couldn't make the changes that they want to make.
They've made the
require that
changes.
approval.
They've already made the changes. It's an after-the-fact
Then
COP.
if they don't get the approval, they got a problem. They got a problem. The state could tell them to pull them out if they don't get the approval.
And would that then void any special permit?
Not necessarily, it's just they still couldn't do it until they have, well, I mean, sometimes you need, for example, variances, you need historic district approval, you need planning and zoning approval. If you get two of them, but not the third one, you got a problem. Okay. So we could grant it, but unless they have all the necessary approvals, and I don't, there may be more than what we've got in front of us here, they're not going to move forward.
thank you, sir. Questions? Oh, 5 minutes. We have a 5-minute question.
5-minute question.
All right, so I'm Dave Hall, and I live down on 456 Whitfield Street. And I had a couple issues with the proposal. Mostly, I'm concerned about the hours, the unrestricted hours. I know when my neighbor Phil here is mowing his lawn or his dog's barking, I can call him up and the dog is quiet or the lawn mowing stops, but I'm not sure that we'll have a hotline into the garage in the middle of the night saying to the guys in the garage, can we shut this thing off today? It's Sunday night, you know, we don't want to hear it anymore. The other thing is, I had an opportunity to look at the zoning regulations, and we all agree that it's a residential area. We agree that it's a single-family dwelling, and within that dwelling, we can have unrelated family members, but I think the regulation states that they live together, but they also cook together, and there's no way to prove that they're not, but I'm not sure that they are. Which, when I read a little bit about what lodging is where you can have a lot of people in a house, and they can be unrelated and have use of a kitchen. So maybe this is more like lodging, and that would fit into a regulation that a hotel might fit in or a motel might fit in. Certainly that would not be wouldn't be allowed in a residential area. The other thing could be maybe rooms to let, which is also in the regulation under the definitions, and that also falls under the guidelines of a lodging. So while Mr. Rothberg is offering this free housing to his employees, in a way they are getting paid with free housing, so that would make me think that maybe it's not really a residence as we speak of, maybe it's more of a lodging. So the other thing is, we're looking at, well, maybe we can pass this thing if we're looking at it as a home craft business. Well, your regulation clearly states that a home craft business, handicraft business, is done by a person with skillful use of the hands, and they talk about making pottery, and they talk about some other things. I don't have to tell you what it is. You all know what the regulation is. And I don't see that that's really happening in this particular situation. I looked at the definition of a research laboratory, and that includes creative work is conducted on blah, 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 to increase basic knowledge, not to include manufacturing of products or provisions of service, and, it's the experimental development, including creative work. So it seems like this maybe fits more into that research laboratory thing, and there's certainly no way for us to ever know whether anything that's made down there could be used for Mr. Rothberg's present businesses or future businesses, which I believe he's trying to get into the Stonehouse. Generally, I don't see where any of the regulations are fitting this particular application, and mainly because it's not an owner-occupied property. It seems to be more of a room-to-let lodging type situation where there'll be no control over what really gets done down there. So I'm against allowing the use, and I think certainly unlimited hours, there's no real supervision or anybody I can call is warranted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take a break and we're going to switch the tape. We will not transact any business or discuss anything while the tape is off. And we're back. We have not conducted any business nor discussed the case. We've just changed our tape, and we just took some testimony from someone bringing up some important issues about use of the house. Does staff have anything to say about the relevance of the makeup of the family structure? I think we covered that.
I think we did. It's not really an application before you right now.
Right.
If you recall, several months ago, we had Chuck talking about this very issue in an informal way with us, and his conclusion was that our definition of what constitutes a single family is extremely liberal, and this probably falls within that definition. Now, if the commission wants to take that issue up and get it further, I would suggest we do that at a future date with Chuck involved.
So far we're thinking that we want to get some more input from Chuck before we decide on this. Okay. In the meantime, does anyone else have any questions? Sir.
Good evening, Ryan Nichols, 98 Michael Drive. Just curious if you guys have any decibel reading for the tools you guys have in there and the highest that they might be producing.
We've not had cause to test that yet. I do work in a couple of environments where we have gone in and just achieved the level where OSHA would require a hearing if I were to work there for more than an hour. And the current workshop, unless I'm running the saw, it's pretty low. If anyone were to have a complaint, they've not yet brought them to our attention.
My only concern is that the commission is concerned about lights at Guilford Commons next to I-95, but you also have to take into consideration noise levels that might be down in a residential area, or if you guys have talked about the quality of life here in Guilford, which also includes largely that marina area that tends to be a quieter destination for people from the town that still use that on a daily or regular basis. That was my only question in regards to the sound.
Appreciate that. So just to clarify your answer, you have not had any decibel studies done to indicate what level of sound is actually being made?
The answer is no, because we haven't had anyone say, so I'm going to have to assume, I apologize if I'm wrong, that we're not producing noise that is bothering anybody. And I think there are people who live on the street here who can probably help answer that, because if they did like the light, we were going to address it. That's what we want to do.
So then you're saying you've not received any complaints?
We have received no complaints of tool noise, that type of noise that,
Okay, so that's your representation.
All right, that's good. All right, thank you. We have another hand. Well, Phil, let's get you going. And just for full disclosure, Phil is a commissioner. He has recused himself from sitting in judgment on this because of his proximity to the applicant.
Phil Johnson, 472 Whitfield Street. I've lived across the street from Harry Peacher's Stowe House for 23 years. I actually lived in it for a year while we were house sitting for the residents at the time. So I'm pretty keenly aware of how subject this property is to flooding, and that's really my biggest concern as to what's going on. And you can control the noise, you can control the light, you're never going to be able to control the flood. I have a picture, I'm happy to show it to you guys because I'm sure you've seen stuff like that. That's the garage. This is not during a hurricane. I'll actually go right up here. Pretty good? Okay. This is just during a high tide. That is the garage. That's the level of the flood water. And that's just during high tide. If you'll note, it's also extremely calm. There's no waves, there's no wind. Having lived through both hurricanes at that site, the Petersons who lived there came and stayed in my house. And their entire basement was flooded, the whole garage was flooded out. I don't care how impervious the floor is, the water's going to come through. The second point I have to ask is, we spent a ton of time talking about the Coastal Resilience Plan. And I'm curious from the Commission how a utilization like this ties into a plan that we as a Commission and as a town have approved. And I will kick that back to you to consider.
Thanks. That's great.
And one final point, and I will not cite the Chief Justice, but he said, I'm trying to figure out exactly what he said, but he said, I might not be able to put a definition on porn, but I sure know it when I see it. I don't know what the definition per se of a machine shop is, but I know one when I see it. If you have a milling machine, if you have an industrial sander, if you have the type of machinery that they have in this garage, it's a machine shop. It might be being used by the residents for their play, but that's what it is. This is a building that is incredibly subject to flood, and this activity shouldn't be allowed in there. I mean, if they want to park their cars in there, park your cars in there. No one's ever going to stop you from doing that. But to run a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week play shop with milling machines that no one controls, I guess I will ask one other question of you guys. Is all of the work that's being done in the shop attended there while it's being done? Or are they setting cycles for the machine to run and then come back when it's done?
We have a safety rule to not leave tools running unattended. That's a bad decision.
Mm-hmm. So every time there's a piece of machinery running, there's somebody in there?
Yes.
I mean, the answer is telling you yes.
Okay.
And the same thing is, do you ever leave your stove on and walk away? I mean, if the guy goes to the bathroom, if I lied to the committee, so I have to be very careful. So we're not running it and running away, but there's going to be a time when maybe the guy starts something and goes to the bathroom, does something.
Sure.
Starts something,
But again, the nature of what they're doing there is not a stove. I mean, they're running a milling machine, and by the very nature of that, it's going to be generating heat, right? Depending on, I mean, if they're milling aluminum, as you said, how are they cooling the actual product that they're milling?
It's air-cooled.
It's air-cooled. Okay. And I know you said they were encapsulated machines. What about the particulate that's pulled from the machine?
It comes out in a container that can be after the entire product is done running, and you can take it and dump it.
Okay, those are probably the milled pieces that fall down, but not the particulate that's blown into the air as it's doing it, right?
We don't take it out until it's completely done, and then we recycle the aluminum because that's how you use it.
For the sake of argument, I don't know the answer to this. If this were a commercial operation, and it's not, obviously, we know that, and maybe you guys can help me, would this be subject to more scrutiny with respect to fire protection?
Well, in one of his pictures, he had a fire extinguisher right next to a cabinet marked flammable.
Right, but we're in a building here, and all the things at the top are sprinklers. If in a commercial machine shop in town, are they subject to having sprinklers?
I don't know.
I think it goes by square footage.
So that's a good question there. You have a cabinet that's marked flammable. Are there flammable fluids in there?
WD-40.
Are there any other flammable fluids in there?
I can imagine that they might today have a can of spray paint.
Do you have any cooling fluids in there to aid in the machining process at all? Any water-soluble or oil-soluble cooling fluids that could be injected during the cutting process?
Not that I'm aware of.
Let me ask you to try to get to this point. Let's say that hypothetically we deny the application and say, you guys got to go back to using it as a garage. So you put 3 trucks in there with fuel in it, oil in it. You have the standard kind of stuff people have in garages where they maintain stuff. You got cans of oil, you got chemicals, soap and stuff to wash it. Compare that impact if there's a flood to what would happen if there's a flood now. Is there less now, or is there more if it was used?
I would just take a little bit of exception that if there's a truck and there's a flood coming, you can get the truck out of there pretty darn fast.
Maybe.
You can't get this machinery.
My point is, so what if the machinery gets wet? Is it going to pollute?
If the machine gets wet, it's not going to pollute. It's going to either destroy or damage the machine, and I have to pay for it. If I had my lawnmowers, my oil, and all that stuff in there and it gets flooded, it's going to roll right back out with the tide, and it's going to go right out into the marshes.
That's what I'm trying to just
So
get.
the answer is right now, we are light years ahead environmentally with a sealed floor and non-standard garage oil and hazardous stuff in there.
Yeah,
We're light years ahead for the environment.
Grant you, if it floods, it's going to flood.
It's going to flood.
What you're telling me is it's going to ruin the machines, but not pollute the environment.
Not going to pollute the environment.
Compared to if we told you go back and use it as a garage, that's going to do it more.
A lot more damage.
Possible to argue it's a less intensive use. I mean, I'm just
So
trying to follow.
you mentioned the air conditioner. And while I have you here, and I'm sorry to jump around so much, but I'm trying to catalog all the information you have. In the summer, when you're using it, you needed the air conditioner. What are your plans for the winter?
I do have electric heat that we installed. We'll find out how good it is.
Baseboard?
No, we don't want anything down low. That's a bad idea. They're up about, there's those kind of commercial space heaters about 6-7 feet up in the corners.
Commercial space.
Who's
They're
inspected
something
that?
strong, something, you know, that can fill that space. Excuse me?
They must have taken out a permit for that.
Who has inspected that system as of now?
Which system?
The electrical, the cooling that you put in? I mean, heating?
The heating was done previously as part of, already when we did all the electrical work permitted.
So that was fully inspected? Yes.
That was fully inspected.
I have 2 of those in a pump house at my business, and they're just small units that are 6,500 watts, and they keep a small area very warm.
Yep.
And they're in a pump room with all kinds of electrical equipment.
Okay. But when you had them installed, you had a licensed contractor?
It was all part of the permitting process.
Yeah. Okay.
Electrician did it when they built the building.
Well, good. So we can always look at the permits and make sure everything's up to snuff. That's fine.
First question is supposed to.
One last question.
Yes, go ahead.
Some of the slides you showed some terrific maker spaces. I think one was in West Hartford and probably Westport.
Westport and
I know lots of people that would be thrilled with some type of maker space like that in Guilford. Do you have any intention of allowing some public access to your maker space?
We haven't. There's liability issues that we all know about. It's like saying, well, are you going to let someone come in and use your lawnmower? And I appreciate that. And it violates the zoning regulations. It's not our plan. I knew he was here for a reason. I try not to bring him on. I try not to bring him on.
Good for you.
I mean,
very good. You just earned your money. He's an excellent lawyer, by the way. Hire him. All right. Any other questions? Oh, we got hands, sir.
I'll make a statement.
We're beyond questions now in the statement.
Well, it's kind of blending. It's okay.
Joe Nugent, 423 New Whitfield Street. First disclaimer, I'm speaking as an individual, not as a member of a town commission that I serve on, or any citizens committees that I serve on, or any neighborhood group.
To me, this whole complex, this building, is an adult hostel. That's what it's like. And as far as the garage being a machine shop, I'll quote a politician. If it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it's a duck. And that's a machine shop. And this is a misuse of a residential property. And I'm quite familiar with it. I've lived there for 42 years. I've walked 2 dogs for 42 years. Well, not 2 dogs. The last one passed away about 3-4 years ago. But anyways, I walk up and down that street probably 3-4 times, and I meet a lot of his people. You know, they're nice people. I have nothing against them. But still, I think it's a misuse of the residential property.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
I'm the next door neighbor. I live at 469 Whitfield Street. My name is Nancy Arnold. These people have not been in my way. They haven't bothered me in any sense. But I have great concerns with what they're doing for this reason. I've lived there for 52 years and been through 3 hurricanes. The last hurricane gave me 5 feet of water in my cellar, and the furnace went and the hot water heaters. My cellar is 40 feet from the garage, and it's on the same level. I don't quite understand why one would be going into this garage to do anything when eventually it's going to be flooded. And let me tell you, 5 feet is a lot. I'm concerned about the meadow. I'm concerned about any kind of machinery or equipment that's in there that has toners or oils or things like that, because it's going to float into the meadow, and we know what a sensitive system that is. There's going to be another hurricane one of these days. I don't understand, and I guess my question is, why do you want that building when you're going to get 5 feet of water and you say, well, then I'll take everything out and replace it?
It's the same logic of all the businesses down there. We can't control the weather, and we can't control it, but it's an evil we have to deal with if we want to live on the water and live along these places. I mean, anyone who lives along the shore takes that risk. And some have flood insurance, some don't. Some houses in some places get wrecked and don't rebuild. Thankfully, we have the ability to put new machines in. The machines don't have oils. To answer your question, what's in there now is much, much better for the environment. If there's when there's a flood, than if the cars, the motorcycles, the oil cans, and the trash was there. We're ahead of the curve. Is it going to flood? Yes. Will we have time to pick up our stuff and move it? I don't know the answer to that. We know it's going to happen, and we've accepted it.
But when it flooded before, the cars were taken out before the flooding happened. So I don't understand why you would pick that particular place. And it seems like a waste to be saying, I'm going to put this in there, and then when the water comes in, I can replace it.
It is in a way a waste, but it's a case where we can't remove everything. If there's oil cans and trash, and certain things will stay there.
Well, let me tell you what I did. I don't have my furnace on the floor. It's hanging from the ceiling. My hot water heaters, they're upstairs. I had to make the changes. I don't hear you planning changes in there. What I hear is, when it happens, we'll deal with it. And that kind of sounds like a waste.
Well, to answer that, the changes would be to solve the problem. Is we want to be in that area for what I talked about with our building, the water, our other buildings, the restaurants, the view. There's a reason we're there. It goes back to that quality of life. The change that we would have to make, or we would make, would we would literally have to raise the entire building. I mean, I know it's 6, 8, 10 feet. That's the only way. And
come see my generator, which is 12 feet in the air.
Okay. But imagine if you walked out and the garage was 12 feet in the air, you might go, no, you got to be kidding.
I might say they're keeping up with the times. I don't know.
I'm not against that. And maybe when and if, or I should have, when it happens, then when we rebuild, we'll come and say, we'd like to put everything 15 feet up. Can we raise our garage up? But I understand, it's just the nature of the beast, being by the water. But you said something very important, is you don't hear us, we don't bother you, there is no noise. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You don't bother me. I have nothing against it in that respect. In fact, I got a bad reputation for being a bad neighbor because I understood at the beginning of the summer you had no permit and you were using that building, and someone said to me, well, check and see if they're using it. Well, I didn't go over and try to see you during the day, but at night, when the lights were on, I let the selectmen know and I let Reggie know that the building was being used. Then you started putting up, not you, paper on the windows because supposedly the light was bothering me. This all gets to be games. That's no good. That's no good. I don't care. You've got the permit. Do what you want.
Would you say we're a good neighbor?
I'd say I don't even know you're there. So that's the best I can say. And that's what I like. Yeah. But you could invite me over when some of these interesting things are going on, and then I would. I'd appreciate it.
To speak to one last point, can I move a car out? Yes. An important point about that one number is it is in fact on wheels. I can't move it. That is not a monolithic instrument. Those, while heavy, are very mobile.
You've got a plan for all those things if you're going to have it. You've got
Yeah, we do. Thank you, ma'am. Who else?
All right, thank you. I'll go right from here. You paraphrased what I said earlier, and I think my point was that for an accessory apartment, for an accessory business, it's usually owner occupied, and I think that's the way the zoning laws are set up. In this particular situation, it's not owner occupied, and we're about to make a decision on something that requires a special permit. So I'm not sure that really we can make that decision because the zoning regs don't fit the situation.
Thank you. Sir.
My name is Bart Manzi. I own the Guilford Lobster Pound. And I don't have a problem with what they're doing as long as they don't bother the neighbors, as long as the neighbors have a contact if there is a problem to get a hold of. I mean, I think what they're doing now there is great. And actually, there's less traffic now with the restaurant being closed than what they're doing. There's no more deliveries all day long going on. Weekends, the parking lots were crazy. And our business has increased. We've met some really interesting people from all over the world that came and sat on our dock and enjoyed our lobster rolls and lunch. So, you know, I think it's great for the town. And you know, I hope you support them. I definitely support them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Who else? Ma'am.
So my name is Lori Desmond. I live at 34 Seaside Avenue. Basically direct side access from my backyard into the property at 45 Whitfield, and although it's not part of this discussion, the 530 Whitfield. Since you brought it up, I'll throw that in. A couple of comments. I think some of these have already been made, but I think just to repeat so you know that there's more than one voice saying the same thing. I too question whether this is a residence or not a residence. You know, having 4 or 5 people, up to 20 people on a rotating basis, considered a common housing unit defies my understanding of that term. I would say that some of the visiting scientists over the summer, we observed from our backyard, you know, walking through the muddy marsh, figured out they couldn't access Jacob's Beach from the muddy marsh, and then came into our backyard to get out of the muddy marsh and walk into the street. So I don't consider this someone from the neighborhood. No offense. So first is I don't think that residential, although that's not being discussed today, I think it should be discussed. Second, I agree with Philip that there was so much neighborhood agitation around the coastal resilience plan to have something not be assessed against that plan. I just don't understand that at all. A couple of, random comments. First meeting here, so I learned a lot today, but, having seemingly doing things without permit, doing things against FEMA, doing things without EPA, and then asking for approvals, I'm not sure that feels like the right answer to me, but again, I don't know. I just learned some of these things today. I think they're all alternatives. You mentioned that you don't want to have people in your work when they're playing. Well, I don't want people working in my backyard that I can see them. So there's alternatives to the play shop. And I think saying this is something like Westport Library when there's mill presses or milling machines and drill press, I don't think this is a like for like analogy from Westport situation to this situation. Finally, I would say great speaker, great job. And I will, formally ask your request for lights on in the neighborhood. You're going to take the shades. I mentioned to Chuck, we see the lights every night from 5:30 from our backyard, all hours of the night. This was brought to his attention last week at Stonehouse, so we would request as good neighbors to remedy that situation because it's quite distracting. Even the mooring, Guilford Moorings, has a shut-off time, so I think there should be some consideration of lighting to the neighbors as well. So that's a summary of my comments. Obviously, I'm against this, but would be willing to learn more about what's being planned in the bigger picture. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Who else? Anyone else? Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Fran Peranto, 103 Russell Drive. I also have to state that I'm speaking as a citizen of Guilford and not a member of a committee that I'm on. I have a question. If this committee or people wanted to get an inside look at that facility, would you open it up and let people in?
Are you saying public access? Or
well, no, just so people could get in and see exactly what you're talking about besides the slides you showed.
Could I ask a question? You're talking about the shop?
About the shop, yes.
Saying the site visit.
I know Red and George have come and visited already. We want more people to come visit.
Right. My concern is we have to decide whether this is a residence or not. If it is determined that the use is allowed as a residence, then whether he's got a drill press or a welding machine, it's got nothing to do with anything. Because if you go through town, there are many people that do auto body, and that you worry about something that's environmentally unsafe. If somebody bought that house and was doing auto body in there, that creates all kinds of havoc. So I think you have to decide whether it is or is not a residence, and if it is, would it matter if he put a pool table and pinball machine in there? If it's what they do for recreation, it's what they do for recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Last chance.
Mr. Chairman, this is the first time that either of these parties has actually seen each other in real life. There's a lot of these members of the public and have not previously met Mr. Rothberg or Mr. Beckius. So I might recommend that we table just in case there happens to be some kind of accommodation, and otherwise we would make a decision at the next meeting that relates to our pretty subjective determinations when it comes to the special permit, the types of uses, the level of nuisance, and the and that coastal resiliency.
I think that it might be prudent to get one more bit of guidance, or guidance or counsel from Chuck. Yes. I'm a little bit, I'm thoroughly confused at this point about which things are relevant and which things are not relevant.
Right. That's true too.
So I would request that we could table this until the next meeting, and in the meantime, maybe staff can ask Chuck to give us some guidance on what we're dealing with here.
Well, I think we need to frame the request.
Specific question.
Yeah, I mean, George, I think you were basically explaining the process we need to go through. If it's determined to be a residential use, then we need to determine if what's being proposed there is a nuisance, right? I mean, is that basically what we need to decide? So
Adversely affecting.
Right. So what do we need Chuck for? Okay, I mean, tell me which of those two pieces we need Chuck to tell us something about what that something is. I mean, and if we do, let's do it. I mean, I don't think we're going to be ready to vote on this tonight anyway, so I don't have a problem pushing it off we haven't even gotten to the CAM application yet. But if we're going to ask Chuck to do something, I think we owe it to him to give him a specific request as to what we're asking for, so we can research it.
Sure. I thought we addressed the issue of the definition of a single-family dwelling before, but evidently there's still some question about what that means. So we can certainly ask him to revisit that issue for us. The other question is, if we do have a special situation with a special kind of residency here, what is a home handicraft business or industry? What's the appropriate home handicraft industry to that particular type of residence? I think to me that's the complex question here. And then the third is, if this is a home handicraft industry, pursuant to whatever our understanding of the residency is, then does it have an adverse impact on the property?
I'm not sure how much the last two are legal questions and
the last one is definitely
determinations we have to make by facts. And
we tried to have Chuck address that first question before. Obviously, it's not totally clear, so we could ask him to come back.
Second two are questions I think we need to decide are not really legal. They're going to be applying the facts of the situation at hand and making a decision.
The other thing that I don't understand is the Jim Borley's memo. Today was the first day we saw that. I'm not sure what he's really saying. For example, it just occurred to me tonight when I heard it read, he uses the word prudent. He doesn't say it's required that they do these things. He said it's prudent that the recommendations that he's making be performed. I don't know whether he means by that those are required by the flood damage protection ordinance. I'm confused also by the other testimony we heard. This may or may not have contradicted what Jim was saying, so I think it needs some more clarification on that also. I do at least.
Yeah, that's fine.
So on those 2 points, we can certainly revisit them at the next date of your next meeting, if you want to continue this hearing until then.
Yes.
I don't think we have any choice but to continue it.
All right. So,
excuse me, if I may?
Sir.
The question about does it meet the single family, I believe, I thought, he had addressed it, and I put it in another context. People do have other people stay at their houses for long periods of time. I'm sure some of you have been host families for foreign exchange students and done it 3, 4, 5 times in a row in the same year. Where do you decide? He's given a definition of the new family, and obviously we believe we're complying with that. Does that mean that the person on the other side of town that has host families come 3 or 4 times a year that aren't related, now all of a sudden they're not compliant with it?
Sir, one of the unique specifications here is that there is no host family in that house.
I understand, but we're trying to decide. I'm just saying, as someone who lives in Guilford, or my parents, or my brother and sister, it's about, yes, interpretation. I thought he explains that they meet that guideline. They are residents. Now it's a question of, okay, we've moved past that. The email or memo about prudent. Prudent, where I come from, most of us met when your parents said it was prudent, you do something. It was a suggestion. Now, if you didn't do it, and it didn't work out your way, it got rubbed in your face. If we don't reinforce the building, we don't make it storm-proof, that's on us. We're not going to pollute the environment. That's money out of my pocket. As she said, hey guys, think. I agree with you. So we understand that. And that's a risk, just like all of us take. We're willing to take. And we're trying to obviously grow our business. I tell no lies. We're trying to change the world. The things that my brother does is the sequencing of human genome. It's cutting edge technology. These are weird people. They work and play. They go to that hobby shop. Time to us is of the essence. First mover advantage is what counts. If you're not the first mover, you're out of business. And I like to think that I've answered the questions. He's answered the questions. She had some valid points, but I believe she said it best. I don't know their next door. At that point, doesn't it say, these guys aren't so bad? I mean, I'm sure if she wasn't happy, she would tell us. She said it's prudent for us to have a plan to get our equipment out or up. I respect that. But you made it very clear, as a next door neighbor, we're not bothering anybody. We're just trying to be neighborly. We're here. We have the applications in. We've done all our permitting. Sooner or later, it's going to come to a point that you have to get permit this before you get that, or you have to get that before this. We're at that juncture right now. We need from you to keep going, and then the other permits keep coming. Someone's going to say, well, if you don't have a permit from the town to operate, you can't come back to us. It's going to happen sooner or later.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, you're not dependent on us at this, for the others at this time.
Correct. When someone brought up they don't have this permit.
At the end, I mean, at the end, of course, you're...
We have to have everything, sooner or later, but you just take them as you can get them politely. When you get the permit, you get the next one, you keep going, but we have to comply. We are complying. That's why we're here.
Well, for me, sir, and with all due respect, you have representation here, and he's guiding us through certain things. And some of these decisions right now, I want to be clear, absolutely clear, before I say something one way or another. So what I'm saying is I want to speak with our council. I want to ask town council to interpret certain things for me, so when I make a decision, I'm comfortable with it. That's all.
No, fair enough, fair enough.
Not judging what you're doing. I don't know one way or another how I feel about certain things. I really want to chew on it for a while. But ultimately, I need to speak with town council and have him go over with me in a conversation what I think I heard, what I think I'm thinking, and guide me as to whether I'm being an idiot or not. So, and again, it's up to the other members of the commission whether we want to table this till the next meeting. Probably maybe want to call for a vote. Do any of you have anything else to say before I do that?
No, I mean, so what we're going to do is we're going to have Chuck come back and speak to us on the residential aspect of this.
Correct. And are we going to get any further clarification on the
And this Jim Portley thing too, who's going to clarify that?
He is. We'll ask Jim to speak to that a little more clearly.
He's on the agenda.
So let me just ask, is there anything else we want Chuck to talk to us about?
We have another member.
While you're asking Chuck for a definition, could you ask him for a definition of a machine shop?
If there is such a thing, sure.
I mean, it's...
Well, usually in a situation like this, we go to a dictionary or a source of information, and I don't know how they describe a machine shop. I guess maybe we ask Chuck.
I think the better question might be, is this a home, would this fit into a home handicraft or any of the other definitions in our regs? But that might be for us to...
I think, again, it's going to be more of a factual question than legal. I mean, you can argue that anyway. People have metalworking tools in their basements, so is that a machine shop? They are, then
Right, well, you have, also, the other thing is true too, you're right. Supposing someone is running a commercial business and has no tools, that's still a commercial business.
Right, but the representation is this isn't a commercial business.
Right. And that's really
If it was, we got a whole nother problem.
Right, so that's something to chew on, and we also have...
If I can just have a moment, my name is Peter Verdun, I understand representative Rothberg. I just want to get a couple of technical questions off the table. Are you going to be closing the public hearing tonight?
No, we're going to leave it open, just table.
So all you do is table, then we'll have the opportunity to rebut at your next meeting, give the hour.
Absolutely, you should. The way we've normally done these, but Mr. Chairman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is normally we get the input from the public, we ask questions, the public asks questions, and then you get the rebuttal at the end.
And I just have to make one quick comment. I don't want you to leave this meeting without thinking about what it means to be granting a special exception. And your regulations spell out very clearly the exact requirements that are needed in order for my client to obtain the special exception. And they're set forth in the regulations. You take a look at them. They're not very long. They're not very complicated. And so what I would ask you to do is, when you go home, you're thinking about this, take a look at section 273-80. It sets out the standards. Those standards talk about the new construction of buildings for those parts. None of that really applies because the building's there, it exists. There's no outward change to that building. So I think we comply, in all those respects. But take a close look at that. And then you should also take a close look at the regulations regarding the home handicraft businesses. Because there, again, only 4 requirements. And I think we meet all of those in the technical requirements. Once we meet those requirements, there's no other considerations that you need to give to this application. You just have to approve it. That's just the way that the special exception works. They're your regulations. They're the ones that you adopted, the ones that you decided to make govern this particular town and this particular issue. I do also want to talk a little bit about this whole issue of operating, without a permit and cease and desist. If you take a look at your zoning regulations and you take a look at the table, the use of an accessory structure for home handicraft businesses is permitted. Look at the table, it says PPP right across the table. If you take a look and you read in your permitted section, it says go down and look at your use table. Anyone taking a look at that is going to think, oh geez, this is a permitted use. And we can argue about whether or not it is or isn't. We'll be back before the zoning board on our appeal with respect to that. But at least my client was acting in good faith when he says, look, we think it was a permitted use. Your use table says this. You just need to take that into account. I don't want you to walk away and think that we're totally ignoring the regulations. There's certainly some confusion. If it's in conflict with what you wanted to attend, maybe you should think about thinking about that.
One other question, while you're at it, there's also a CAM application here. Is there anything you want to call our attention to with regard to the CAM regulations that we should be considering? Your perspective?
Yeah, I think we meet requirements for the CAM approval. And we can go through that more in detail when we actually get to the CAM application. I think, obviously before you
I'm just thinking so we can review that ahead of time just to make sure we're...
I would just go ahead and read the CAM requirements, and I think you heard some evidence about that already. There's a little bit of kind of cross applications. My town and Branford, we hear them all at the same time, so we don't have to worry about that cross-contamination. Do it, get it done with. And so just read that, and you'll think about the questions that you're going to be looking for. But thank you. I just wanted to take care of that.
You define industry to include play space.
Well, so here's the issue is, quite honestly, I think the intent of your regulations, if you look at them from a local standpoint, is the residential use of the property as this hobby play space, totally permitted. They don't need a special exception at all. What that home industry, craft industry is, that's where you're going out and you're actually selling the stuff. You actually have a commercial enterprise. And, Mr. Chairman, to your point about, oh, well, it should be a single homeowner that should be operating there, you take a look at your regulations, there's a contemplation, you can have 2 employees there. That's what the regulations contemplate, 2 employees at a home industry. That's what your regulations contemplate. I didn't draft them, a prior commission did. You guys have adopted them, they've been in place. That's what appears to be contemplated, in my reading of the regulations. But obviously, you're the final arbiter of that, and I'll leave that at your discretion. But think about that. That's really what I think the home handicap industry is. It is an actual business. It is not a play space. I think a play space is permitted under your regulations as an accessory use.
All the actual uses of 2 employees in town, when people actually have an employee or 2 that sometimes work in their home, sometimes work in their home, that does happen in this town. I shouldn't say always. It consistently seems to be office, where they have an office in the in-law apartment or upstairs or et cetera. They have a couple computers and they do their stuff and leave. The handicraft industry.
Mr. Burton is confusing one aspect of this issue. Home handicraft industry and home offices are permitted uses when they're in the principal building, when they're in the dwelling. They only become special permit uses when they're proposed in a detached accessory building, which is the case here. So if you have an office with 2 employees in your home, you don't need any approvals from the Planning and Zoning Commission or home handicraft industry. But when you want to do any one of those things, including creating a studio or guest quarters, which you could do in your home without any planning and zoning approval, when you want to do it in a detached building, that's when it triggers the special permit requirements. So that's why this activity that's proposed tonight falls under the special permit criteria, or special permit processes. If they were going to do this activity in the main dwelling, then it wouldn't require your approval at all. Or if they wanted to attach the garage to the main dwelling, if that were physically possible, that would not require a special permit. It's the fact that it's in a detached building that triggers the special permit requirement.
Thank you, George.
Also, on the question of the continuance, the way Attorney Burton described what they do in Branford, that's usually what we do here. We consider these 2 types of applications together. It's certainly a lot easier to do that because we've obviously been already talking about coastal site plan and special permit things together. What I would ask you to do is to open the hearing right now on the coastal site plan application, incorporate all the testimony that we just heard into that hearing also, which I think is a technicality that is appropriate, and then continue the hearing on both of those applications. And I want to talk about the date for that hearing. Normally, you continue to the next meeting of the commission, which is November 4th, when we already have a blockbuster hearing related to this on November 4th. My suggestion would be that you continue this hearing to the next meeting, which would be November 18th, and that we have Chuck and also Jim Portley address the 2 questions that you've asked that they can deal with at that meeting. I'm looking to.
We're not running into any timeline issues, George?
No.
Okay.
We have 35 days to conclude the public hearing after opening it, so we're okay with that. I'm looking at the applicant to see whether that schedule seems to be okay with them in terms of their availability and all that sort of thing.
And so we'd be returning, on the
18th.
On the 18th.
Well, you're also going to be here on the 4th, of course, but that, I assume you're going to be here on the 4th, Attorney Burton, but I know that Charles is going to be here on the 4th. But I don't, there's already, there's all kinds of other applications on the 4th, so unless the commission wants to really have a marathon type meeting, my suggestion would be, to move this to the 18th.
I agree. Before we do too much else, the young lady wants to say something. We would like to accommodate her.
Hi, I'm Karen Flatley. I live at 21 Village, Victoria. I keep hearing about house and handiwork and whatever. This gentleman got up here and said, this is a business. He has the business in one building, and he wants the business in the Stonehouse building, and the people who live in that house are part of the business, and the playroom for them is so that they're happy in their business. It's not a home. It's all part of a business. And I think that we should remember that. Thank you.
Let me just clarify one other thing I said, and Attorney Bergen said the 2 employees, the allowance for 2 employees, that's only associated with the office. It's a professional office in your home or a special permit in a detached building, you can have 2 employees. The 2 employees doesn't apply to any other use, including home handicraft industry. It's only if you have an office is that permitted.
Great, thanks, George.
In terms of scheduling, the 4th is fine for a 506.
That's already been scheduled, set. Those hearings, yes.
And then the 18th comes after this is fine.
Okay.
And for the record, we would object to combining the hearings at this point.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All right, so,
Well, why don't I make a motion to open the CAM application?
I'm sorry, I couldn't see.
Wait, I just had a quick question. What were you objecting to?
I'm objecting for the record to take the evidence from this hearing and use it for the CAM.
Okay.
I mean, you kept them separate.
Yeah.
I do think that establish the rules that way at the beginning, let's follow the rules that way.
Okay.
Your choice. Okay.
No, but in the next meeting, the hearings will both be open and keeping them separate.
Well, I would suggest that you open the hearing on CAM and continue that also to the 18th.
But we won't incorporate the testimony of
We'll have to repeat all the same testimony and presentation that they want, and anybody wanting to comment would have to comment again in that, if you agree with their objection.
We have one more member of the public that wants to speak. I can't really make that their hand. There you go.
Yeah, one question, just to follow up. The gentleman that asked the question about change of use in FEMA, is that going to be addressed as well as part of this, maybe in the CAM?
Ma'am, that's very likely to be addressed in the CAM public hearing, because certainly I'm going to bring up a couple of things about that.
It wasn't made as a point to follow up on, so I just want to get that.
That's not currently open, and that I think that's probably putting words in the counselor's mouth, but that's probably why he sort of mentions objecting to that and keeping them separate. We may need to sort of reintroduce certain items that came up during this special permit.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess I would say it's a burden for people that have made comments to not have to come back and make the same comments if you're not available, to be disregarded for the, coming and spending hours and to say that doesn't count. So I think that the idea of saying that testimony should not be considered, I don't think it's fair to the people.
Commissioners will also reintroduce a lot of it. Maybe we could possibly fail to reintroduce all of it, but I think we've got it.
We can also ask our counsel about the appropriateness of taking the testimony and introducing it in the second hearing, and whether he thinks that's okay or not. Attorney Burden has said that he's objecting to it, but our counsel may advise that it's perfectly legitimate to do that, in which case you would then...
Let me just ask, so what your suggestion is we continue the first hearing, we open the CAM application and continue that?
To the same day.
Don't input any of the testimony from the first to the second one. Okay, so I made a motion to open the second CAM application.
Second.
All those in favor?
And then I'll make a motion that at this point we continue both of these applications until the November 18th meeting.
Second.
In this bill.
In this bill.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. You're up. And that's it?
Well, that's it. We continue the application. So now we're moving on to the next item on the agenda.
We do have one other application. We can't have any.
Good. All right.
Special permits.
Special permits.
Move to approve the revised agenda.
Second.
Very revised.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All right, so can I get a motion to receive special permit and set a hearing date for A&T Properties for November 18th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. What does Mr. Portley have to?
What's the Town of Guilford CAM application for the improvements along Hill Road?
Okay, so can I get a motion to...
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
74 Seaside Avenue LLC. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, site plan. Can I get a motion to receive this application?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Received it to when? Today.
I'm sorry, where are we on the agenda?
This is the site plan.
C, site plan.
Okay.
506.
Right, this is, let me preface this a little bit. And the representatives from 506 Winfield Street are here to weigh in on this subject also if they want to. As you know, you've received an application for a special permit to convert what we call the Old Stonehouse Restaurant to a office under the Town Center South regulations. That's been set for a public hearing on November 4th. You've also received a coastal area management site plan application for that same activity, which is set for the November 4th date. This is the third application related to that same property for site plan approval for a marine research laboratory or installation or facility in the Stonehouse Restaurant building, which we would suggest that that site plan application also be incorporated into the same public hearing as the other two applications that I just mentioned. However, the applicant is, I believe, asserting that their proposed activity in that building is a marine research laboratory, which is a permitted use in that zone. If that's the case, then the application for a special permit for office in that building is perhaps redundant. You could approve the site plan application and the coastal site plan to allow a marine research laboratory, and they could occupy the building, renovate it, and implement the rest of the site plan without the special permit. Whether they want to obtain a special permit for office use or not, in addition, is sort of up to them. They would have more flexibility as to what they could do with the building if it's approved for office use in addition to a marine research laboratory. If it's only approved for marine research laboratory, not the special permit for office, then they're much more limited in what they can do there. Namely, they can only do whatever marine research laboratory means. Marine research laboratory is not defined in our zoning code.
So we have to decide whether or not what they're...
I believe they want to make a case for why that building, or why that activity that they're proposing should be considered to be a marine research laboratory.
But that's most appropriate on November 4th with the special permit for office.
Well, when you decide that is kind of up to you. You could decide it right now if you wanted to, or you could hear what they have to say, and I guess my advice would be, you hear what they have to say, think about it a little bit, and perhaps also Chuck Ambrose could help us with that. He has been invited to the November 4th meeting, so he can help
The
us.
special permit that we now have on file for the applicant is asking for marine research and office space?
Yes. Asking for office use, presumably marine research is a type of office which could fall within that, but the special permit for office is obviously much broader than just marine research. If it's approved for special permit for office, it could be a marine research office, or it could be, any other type of office. I believe that that's the intent of what they're applying for.
So, so specifically, what are we being asked to decide tonight?
Whether or not the proposed activity is a marine research laboratory. Because if it is, it's allowed by right.
Okay, well, I don't know how we're going to do that without taking testimony, or at least...
That's correct. You're going to hear, I think you're going to hear from them now as to why they think this activity is a marine research laboratory. It's not, there's no public hearing required. This is pursuant to your interpretative task to make that judgment.
So can you, what are the exact words that we're trying to see if it fits into?
It's called a marine research laboratory. It's a permitted use in the, I've forgotten what the zone is even called, C2M? C2M zone. It's a permitted use, marine research laboratory. I don't have any other guidance for you. To my knowledge, we don't have any other use in Guilford that is a marine research laboratory. There's no definition in the zoning code as to what a marine research laboratory is.
Are there any other towns that have definitions?
That I don't know.
Well, why don't we hear their argument as to why it includes the office space, if you'd like to make one now.
Have I stated the case sort of as clearly as I possibly can?
Yes.
Okay.
So what are you planning to do in there?
Again, my name is Michael Rothberg. We plan and want to use 506 for marine research laboratories. What we're doing is computer-based research for sonar, working with those type of technologies. These are clean computer labs. We're not bringing in dolphins. We're not dissecting anything there. There's no, things like that. It's computer-based, advanced technology, sonar. We have an interest in marine animals. We've focused on the octopus, the mimic octopus. I mentioned my brother and some of the machines he's developed in the past have been used, the DNA sequencing, to sequence the mimic octopus. This is, again, where we excel, or my brother excels at cutting-edge technologies. As he said to you, we have a lot of different businesses. And sometimes when you're going down the road, as you start developing technology, you realize there are other uses. And this is the other use. We want to be a leader in this industry. Again, it's first mover. We need the space to move our marine team in. We're doing basic work. We're limited by how much money we can invest into the building, correct? Correct. Okay? Again, when you drive by the stone house, it's going to look at the stone house minus all the trucks going up and down the street, minus all the cars. We're going to put people there. I can't tell you our special sauce. I can't tell you how we're going to do the research, because that's what we do. That's our secret sauce. And every single word I say here today, yes, is being recorded, but people are paying attention. What my brother does, people watch. Very well-funded competitors, and they're going to go, if Jonathan Rothberg is doing this, I want to do it. So can I tell you? No, but you have to understand we do work with sonar, we do the marine research. This isn't Woods Hole type research. I said we're not on the water. We don't have to reach into the water and grab an animal out. We have worked in the past. Leonid Moritz, he's a PhD at the University of Florida. He's used our decoding machines on his vessels to help decode the mimic octopus. So we have a proven track record of developing cutting-edge technologies. You can go look it up. You can see. We've done it before with different industries. This is where we see something big. And the building is zoned for it, which is the simple reason to buy it. I mean, it's an expensive building. And again, when you drive by it, you're not going to go, what happened to the stone house? You're going to go, wow, that looks great. It's cleaned up. There's new windows. We're not asking you to raise it, to expand the footprint, to turn it into something else. We're saying zoned use, and all we're asking tonight is to get that nod that we can do it. Because obviously the sooner we get the permit, the sooner we work, the sooner we put people to work.
Right, I'm not so concerned about how it's going to look at all at this point, but in terms of the use, you're saying that the sonar development, the DNA sequencing, that qualifies for what you
The
would call
sonar for marine use.
marine use. Okay.
I have a question. I'm sure that I'm not asking you to reveal any names of individuals or whatnot, but in terms of you probably have an envisioned staff. Can you tell me the degrees that these people might be holding that would be?
Most will be advanced engineering or PhDs.
Any in marine biology?
Yeah, I mean, this gentleman here, Lino Moritz, he's a PhD, marine biology, University of Florida. You know, again, who and what, we're assembling as we speak. We go out there, we contact people.
Sure.
I can't tip my hat, as you can
Sure.
imagine.
I just want to know if you would describe the majority of employees in that facility as being.
This is computer science focused on marine sonar and stuff, okay? So it's a little bit different than your standard marine research where people talk about, you know, sea temperature and things like that. This is computer-based. These are the people that you put them in a direction. And that's what my brother does. It says sonar, marine, go. And this is how we should do it. They do it. It's not the old-fashioned way, like, and I understand what you're saying. They're not going to be marine biologists and start doing that. That's not all. We do work with some.
Yeah.
I said.
Well, maybe Attorney Burdon, you've probably looked into this issue as to what qualifies as a marine research laboratory, and I just wonder if you have any input.
You know, I think you got to take a look at the basic definition, and you know, if it's marine related, and if you're doing research, that I think qualifies. You're talking about a situation, as Michael has indicated. You know, there's all different kinds of laboratories out there. You know, this is a computer lab. I realize that we're somewhat constrained in terms of exactly what we can talk to you about. But I think what you have here is you have a company that is going to be doing this particular research that is it's marine based. And there's really no other definition. It's kind of almost, you define the use by the definition kind of defines the use. I realize it's somewhat of a catch-22, but that's what they do.
Are you aware of any other towns that have marine research laboratory, and then if there are definitions associated with that?
I haven't looked at that particular issue, across the towns. There's not a lot of marine research laboratories, that we would think of in a traditional nature here on the water, in Connecticut. The one that comes to mind would be, Mystic Seaquarium. It's not even close to the water, right?
Sure.
It's not right next to I-95. But that is a marine research laboratory. And that's probably a little bit more in the traditional nature that we would all, think of in terms of, sea urchins and things like that in saltwater tank.
George, I wanted to also just, as you were talking about that, I think the Yukon facility at Avery Point in Groton is I mean, it is a school, and they're doing, they're getting advanced degrees, but they do a lot of research there. And I bet you they do a lot of work on computers there, a lot of it.
Yeah. And I bet that you also find that there's marine research labs for Yukon up in stores.
George, I mean, if we were to approve this as a marine research lab, and they operate their business as usual, close all their blinds, and no one really sees what's going on, theoretically, we'll never know if what happened would be a marine research laboratory, other than, of course, the significant improvements that would come out of your facility.
You will know because our proven track record, knock on wood. You will see it. You're right. If we close all the blinds, we also want to remember we are in that district, the town south central district, and we're trying to, again, we're focused on the marine research, and sometimes people, when they hear labs, they think of the old wet labs, but think of Bell Labs. We all remember Bell Labs, right? We all know Bell Labs invented the CCD right here, but that was quote unquote a lab. So labs don't necessarily mean wet anymore. That didn't 40 years ago. So what we do is cutting edge. What we do is different than traditional or what people envision. But it still is marine research. It still is a marine research lab. It may not be what we used to think it was, but that's progress.
Commissioner Hertzman, you bring up a good point. Is you have to, I think, in some respects, take the statement on face value, and if they operate in violation of whatever that definition is, then certainly they would be subject to enforcement action and the loss of the ability to do what they would want to do. I think that is also, well, actually, I don't think, I know that's also the reason that prophylactically we've taken the step to apply for the special exception to the office, so that gives you a much broader use. But this at least gets them going. They want to move forward. They want to be able to start, hiring people. They want to be able to start finishing off the inside. They want to get the site cleaned up and to allow this to happen. And this would allow it to go forward. And I think it's a permitted use, and so they're able to go ahead and do that.
And I understand, I respect the reason we haven't said the other permit. If we get the nod tonight and say, you know what, you're right, it is zoned approval, we don't need the public hearing, obviously it's simpler for everybody, and we go on our way and go do what I'm telling you we're going to do. It's simplicity, but it's our backup.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized at this time for 4 minutes.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Counselor, up to this point, you have talked a lot about good faith. And frankly, up to this point, you've shown a lot of evidence of good faith. This site plan application that you are putting through tonight is the profound opposite of good faith in several key ways. Everyone has gone home. Everyone has gone home. Also, more importantly, they are all planning to come to the next meeting to discuss whether or not this is going to be an office. Now, what you are doing right now is coming to us at 10:30 at night and explaining to us that you have a technicality based on a generalization that contains no definition, and that will allow you to circumvent the upcoming public hearing. Not only is this unacceptable, but it is also bad faith, right here, right now. This is the very first moment, Mr. Rothberg, that I have seen you behave in bad faith. And frankly, it's also the first moment I've ever seen you without an audience.
If I may.
This is not an appropriate thing for us to be deciding here and now. We must continue this to November 4th, or not only do we face comprehensive legal challenges, gentlemen, but also you will be seen as having done this. You just said, Mr. Rothberg, you just said, if we can get the nod from you tonight without the need for a public hearing, it's much simpler. That is not acceptable, Mr. Rothberg. And frankly, at this point, right here, right now, is where you are showing no sense of decency. Ray is very upset about this, right, that I'm bringing this up. But the fact is that this is sunshine, and we need sunshine. Now, there are people who are not big fans of sunshine, and frankly, earlier in this evening, you were showing me a lot of good signs. This is a horrific sign. Thank you.
If I get 5 minutes, no, how's that first?
I'm going to, because this is a personal attack on me.
How is it a personal?
Okay.
How is it a personal attack?
Well, you said I'm showing no good faith.
You're showing bad faith.
If I may ask, how did our two proposals wind up at the end of the night? The times were adjusted and done. Okay, so you can't blame me that it's at this time of night. This is not a technicality. This
is not the public hearing night for this site.
It was, with all due respect, staff was the one that advised us today that we may be asked to give you some information in terms of the use of the property tonight at this part of the agenda with respect to what the marine use is. It wasn't our doing. We didn't set the agenda. So
That's right.
So don't say that we acted in bad faith. So don't accuse us of acting in bad faith.
On November 4th,
you set the
you
agenda,
know that
not
there's
us.
going to be a public hearing, right? And you know that
No,
that public
it's not
hearing
a
is
public-
not tonight.
No, it's not a public hearing. If you're determined that this is a marine use,
Okay?
then there is no public hearing
Okay, thank
on,
you.
on this particular issue, because it's a permitted use. It's a site plan approval. That's what it is. We didn't write the regulations. You guys want to have public hearings on site plan approvals? Write it into your regulations. And when somebody comes and gives you a statement of use, and you have a question because it's a unique use, admittedly it's a unique use, you probably have never had one before in town, my guess is you'll never get one again.
So you're willing to move this to the public hearing night to show an interest in not only good faith, but an interest in full disclosure?
We didn't set the agenda. We were asked to come here and to talk to you.
Right, so you don't have a problem with moving it to November 4th?
I'm here,
Right.
whether it's here today or on the 4th. Again, we didn't put it on the agenda. So to say that I'm
Right.
showing bad faith is an attack on me personally, because I didn't set the time. I didn't set the agenda. Now, you could say I don't like it. I would appreciate it. I understand that. It's not a technicality. It's our description of what we do, which exactly meets the zoning regulations. Now, you may disagree, and I respect that. But the public hearing was for a special permit, and a special permit only, as he's pointed out. If we were dissecting animals and all that, and maybe I brought in some dissected animals and said, look, there would be no public hearing. So in no way, shape, or form are we trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. No way, shape, or form.
Thrilled to hear that,
Okay.
and that is why this is appropriate for November 4th. And that is how you will show that to me, by allowing us, by recommending to us that we continue this application, this site plan application, to November 4th. That is how you will show me that you are, in fact, in good faith. You're absolutely right. You did not choose the schedule. And November 4th is just as good a time as now if you are interested in sunshine and if you are interested in full disclosure.
I'm confused, Walter. Help me. Why is November 4th such a special date?
Because that is the date when it's been publicized and scheduled for this location.
Walter, I went into this discussion under George's pretext that they were going to present us some information and we were going to sort of chew on it. And we might even have our counselor address this question.
Great.
Yeah, so that was sort of how I felt all along. And I'm sure Ray...
And that's why I only just heard a couple of people mention, or you could just decide it tonight.
Well, so you're saying...
You remember hearing that, Josh? Remember hearing
I
him
don't,
say that?
I'm not, listen, I'm not a lawyer. I told you I'm not a good public speaker. If you want to say you got me, you got me. But to say to me that I'm here asking for what is a permitted use that someone else brought up and asked me, I didn't come up here to do it. We were asked it tonight.
Okay.
And again, if there's no need for a public hearing, why would you have a public hearing for someone else who wanted a change of use? If someone else wanted a change of use from permitted A to permitted B, that is I don't want to use the word closed or a council meeting, would you make them go do it? Why are we any different? Aren't I entitled to
You're not different. Your site is already on the schedule for the next date. But I was thrilled to hear a lot of things that you just said, and I am very excited and relieved, frankly, that you're willing to move it to the November 4th.
Okay.
Michael,
please don't put words in my mouth.
Let me just make a statement. I'm pretty sure that the reason why we're making you jump through this extra hoop is not because you are who you are, but it's because we're trying to figure out what a marine research laboratory is. We've never done that before, and as our chairman previously spoke, just like you have counsel, we have counsel, and we don't want to get sued and be tied up in expensive litigation for years by the residents in the neighborhood who say that we did this improperly. So we would need to check with our counselor. There's nothing to do with...
No, I respect that, but that's not the way it was conveyed to me. It was conveyed to me that I am doing something underhanded, and since I have strived and have been brought up not to do things underhanded, politely, I'm going to take, offense to it. Okay? My family didn't survive in Bethany, Connecticut since 1974 because we did things unhandily. When I was 18 years old, plus or minus, I stood in front of the P&Z committee to get approval for us to build a tower silo 2 to 3 times the maximum height. It was good for Bethany, and it's paid off for them for 40 years. So again, someone asked me to talk about what we do. How can I be responsible to do something unhandled?
George, let me ask you this now. So what's going to be the process, whether it was tonight or November 4th? If we make a decision that it is marine research, what they're doing, we don't need to have a special permit hearing, right?
Correct. Unless we decide that we want to go forward with the hearing. Don't get me wrong, we're not pulling from the
So, I mean, so what are you, see, here's what I'm confused about, is you're saying that if it's a marine research facility, it's as a matter of right, they don't need a special permit to do that in that district, right?
Correct. They still need, let me clarify.
So I want to understand what we're being asked to waive or whatever.
Let me first of all make it clear, it's my idea that this subject be broached tonight.
Okay.
Because I knew that the applicant was going to be here, and I knew we were going to be receiving, which you see on your agenda, receiving the site plan application.
Yes.
And I knew that the issue of whether or not a marine research laboratory, whether what they're doing is a marine research laboratory, was going to have to be resolved. Because they're making an application for site plan approval for a marine research laboratory.
Right.
They're also making they've already made an application for a special permit to convert the building to office. And they've already made a coastal site plan application for redevelopment of the property, which requires a public hearing.
Right.
The site plan, if you were to determine that marine research facilities, what they're doing is a marine research facility, they could create that activity, conduct that activity pursuant to site plan approval. You still have to approve the site plan application, which we're not suggesting that you do tonight, even if you decided this was a marine research laboratory. All we're asking you to do tonight with this application is to receive that application. As part of receiving that application, I thought it would be helpful for all parties to at least hear the initial claim that this is a marine research laboratory, so you have a chance to digest that and consider it as part of the totality of applications.
Okay, but here's where I'm getting lost, is let's assume that we had a nice little round table tonight and everybody raised their hand and said, yep, it's a marine research facility, hypothetically. Okay, so what impact? Does that mean we don't have to hear the special?
No, well, they've already applied on the special.
So I'm just trying to understand like what we're being asked to do.
If you determine that their activity was a marine research laboratory,
yes,
they could decide that they would withdraw the special permit for office if they wanted to. Or they could go ahead and keep that application alive, which
okay. So let me ask you this then. What's the appropriate way for us to make that determination, and then they can decide if they want to withdraw or go forward or whatever they want to do?
Probably need to consider it.
What's the appropriate way?
Well, yeah, I mean, what do we do? Just say, let's go around the table once and vote on it, or do we have to open it up for public input? I'm just trying to...
The question of interpreting your regulations is entirely at your discretion. There's no public hearing required to interpret. You can hold a hearing on that question if you wanted to.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand it, so that let's assume if we don't vote now, we vote first thing, I guess, at the next meeting on this.
Or at any point in the future. You have
but if we vote yes on this, and they can make a decision to withdraw the applications for office, if they want to. Keep it going. Or keep it
We
going.
could vote no on the special permit and yes on this. I mean, they could, or...
Well, I'm just trying to get an idea of what we're being asked to do in what order.
I think you're being asked to determine whether or not what they want to do is a marine research laboratory.
And then they'll make the next move.
And they'll decide from that whether they want to, there still will be a public hearing required even to make that decision because it's a coastal site.
Yes, we're going to do the camp part, absolutely.
So if you were to make that decision, then they can decide what they want to do with the special permit application. They can withdraw if they want.
Is that your understanding too of how this should be approached?
In essence, in any respect, you've got to get your arms around that definition.
Okay.
So I would think that we would receive this, but I personally need to really in the span of 10 minutes, I'm not ready to say this.
Well, no, I'm not either. I'm just want to get the process done, so when we come in here November 4th, it's not a melee.
So can I get a motion to receive this? All those in favor?
No, we have to receive and set a date.
No, there's no public hearing.
There's no public hearing.
Yeah, but we can.
It's a site plan.
Well, you got to vote on it. You can't just set a public hearing unless the majority of the members here vote to make.
Move to set a public hearing.
Or do you think there's enough public interest?
Can I just
Move
say?
to set a public hearing for November 4th
Can
on
I
the
just-
site plan application.
I think.
Is there a second? Wait, hold on one second before we do this. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second, we have a vote on the floor, you have to hang on a second, sir. So this is a public hearing on this topic, what day?
November 4th.
November.
Walter, let me just understand, is this a public hearing to aid us in interpreting?
That's correct, because we do not have a definition in
You're
our
going to have a
code.
counselor look into that.
That's right.
And it's solely within our purview to make that call.
It is.
Actually, no, our esteemed clerk just pointed out to me, we don't have time to advertise appropriately between now and November 4th for a public hearing on site plan application, even though in fact you're going to be considering the site plan application on November 4th when you consider these other.
So what day would we have the appropriate amount of time?
So I would suggest that in view of that, you now have a public hearing on the site plan application, even though all the testimony that you'll be hearing will relate to the totality of this project.
There's a motion.
Okay.
No, well, I can't, but the motion isn't, it's not possible. For November 4th, there simply is not enough time.
We have an open vote.
So I've just got to withdraw it.
Are you withdrawing at this time?
Yeah, I mean, the choice that's left to us is I can move to set a public hearing for the 21st, which would be bizarre and ridiculous. I'm sorry, for the 18th of next month, which would be bizarre and ridiculous.
No,
Or
I get why.
we could accept public input.
Well, we're going to get that input probably in the course of the special permit.
I'm getting totally lost here. What we need is this a marine research application? Is it fit to what our code says now? Yes or no?
And it's within our own discretion as to whether.
Right, exactly right. We're killing ourselves here over this.
That's our job to interpret it.
All right, Josh, do you withdraw your second?
Yes, I will withdraw.
Okay, so this is dead, no vote. Sir, you were going to say something.
I think, and again, this is about the public hearings, there's a lot of noise out in the community of what we were going to do from.
This would clear it up.
Office buildings, well, we're trying slowly but surely to clear it up. And, you know, I think I said at the beginning when everyone was here, to your point, of who we are, what we are, and what our exact plans are for that building.
Yeah.
There's no funny stuff here. Okay?
This didn't come up in that,
you know,
in that discussion.
Well, I talked about it at the beginning, if you recall, I tied it all together because, you know, it is one thing. It's about all of it. Charles?
I'm pretty confident that my comment about what we're going to do was seen by thousands more people than attending the meeting this evening. So that's a little disingenuous to think that there weren't enough people here, given the hundreds of.
Oh, no, it's about our decision-making process.
Sure.
And
And
if
I
we were
want-
to decide tonight that you guys, you know, are actually within your rights to do a marine research lab.
The code says we can do that, Walter.
The
It's
code
in the
also
code.
says we cannot do that.
But why would we not do it?
Yeah.
Why would we not do it?
Do you want to bring up the predisposed thing that you brought up with Rich Meyer before, with Tom, right now?
Bring it up with you if you want me to. I'm not going there, Walter.
You already went there once tonight.
And you did too.
Stop.
So we're even.
Stop. We're gonna
All right.
stop.
So here we are.
Make a last statement.
Yes, we received it.
We received it. We received it. Hang on one second. A member of the public would like to address.
Since there's only two of us left, I would like to make a few comments. First, I actually...
There's no public hearing, Walter.
I decided to let her speak.
Can you please come up?
Come on up.
To the mic? Sure.
Why have rules? Why have a meeting? Why bother? I can't broadcast that. Watch yourself. It's a show. Well, it's a real show here tonight.
No,
maybe if you can just listen to what I have to say. First, I have no views on the Stonehouse or not the Stonehouse on this topic. I would have just a couple questions in the event that, since 2 public members stayed for 4 hours, give me 2 minutes, thank you. A couple of things. There was Ocean Co. held an open house for the neighborhood, and Chuck was there, and there were several. First, it was strongly attended and a lot of passionate opinion. And I actually don't have a passionate, view as yet, but some statements that were made, I think, I don't know if they're exactly the same as what I heard a week ago from what you said today. I think the definition of sonar, I hear marine research and all I've heard is sonar multiple times and mimic octopus. Other than that, I don't know what it is, but that's not for me to judge, that's for this group to judge. The second is, you said you have a team, and Chuck said you have to hire a team. So I don't think there is a team yet. So that's again, an inconsistency. A third is, I think you said last week, if the marine use was issued, you would withdraw the office use. And if that's the case, I would like you to confirm that that would be the case, because that was said, I believe you said that last week.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all that aside, I think the bigger issue is because of the passion, and if you really want to be a good neighbor to your neighbors, the best way to do it is to go through November 4th. That was the expectation. And I think it's understood if it's deemed to be marine, then you're going to get the use. But I think
That you better be there.
I think just to let the neighbors have that, and of course hundreds will see it on TV, but I think hearing this would be the right thing for you to do for the neighbors that you want to live and work with. So that's my comment.
Thank you, ma'am.
34 Seaside Avenue.
So, real quick, some emotions have come out tonight, and I think that's okay. That's what we're supposed to do. And answer an objection to me letting the public speak. I would always let the public speak at every meeting, always. We represent them.
So why not make every meeting just a public hearing all the time? That's not how we operate.
Well, it's in my discretion to let people speak to us, and I decided to do it, and I will do that. Ray?
Well, just so I have no issue with that. Just so we're clear then, George, is the first thing on the agenda then at the next meeting to make a determination as to is this marine research or not, I guess. And then if it is,
well, maybe
and
not.
they decide, well, if it is, they may decide to withdraw the special permit.
Or if we hear the special permit first, they may withdraw the, this.
Well, they got to do a site plan anyways, but.
We have a site plan application, and we have a site plan, we have all the necessary.
I just, when we come in here, rather than have an argument over what's the order of business, I'm just trying to understand what's the approach we should take and agree upon for next.
I have a clear answer off the top of my head. I think it sounds like making a decision on that interpretation would be the first order of business.
And then I would say, if that's the case, we open the special permit application. If they want to withdraw it, they can. We go to the CAM application, and then we go to the site plan. Because the CAM application will be a public hearing.
I would suggest on the 4th that we hear the CAM application and the special permit application and the site plan application once you made a determination as to whether the use is permitted or not.
And that'll be up to the applicant to determine if they want to withdraw the office special permit.
Right.
That sounds fair to me if everyone else is agreeable.
Seems like the most logical way of doing it.
I just want to make sure we know what we're going to do here.
It's got to be a long night.
Approach is going to be.
Just so I'm clear, it was site plan on the permitted use, then special exception, then camp?
Well, we could change that. Integrated into one project. It should be dealt with as one subject matter.
I guess kind of my opinion would be is you have to decide whether or not, you kind of decide whether or not something's permitted as first.
Yes. Right.
So get that done and out of the way, and then handle everything else.
Even if they decide it is, what you're doing is a marine research laboratory, it's still subject to site plan approval.
Right. Yeah, there's no question about that.
And coastal site
And the
plan
camp.
approval. And whether you keep the special permit application in or not you would have to make a decision
You
right
your
then and
call.
there.
Right.
Or you could go ahead and have the hearing and ask them not to make a decision. There's a lot of barriers in that regard, but it should all be combined together as one presentation and one solicitation of public input, so people aren't trying to decide whether am I commenting on, the site plan aspect or the coastal site plan aspect or the special permit aspect. I mean, the commission has different criteria that they have to apply, but to have three separate presentations, to me, it doesn't make sense. We've never done that before. It's just a huge burden on everybody.
And I agree, we're not trying to do that. I guess my concern would be is if you have, you have all those three hearings done together, you have an application which is site plan approval that is not a public hearing, and then all of a sudden you bootstrap it into a public hearing.
Yeah, I think you probably are. I don't know if bootstrapping is the right word, but people are going to be commenting on.
Well, under the regulations, we do have discretion to send a site plan out to a public hearing if we so vote.
Right, and then
So
we
it's,
have to advertise it separately.
we normally don't do that, but we do have the right to,
Right.
and we have done that, like for the site plan at the rock pile, we did
And
send
you
that.
also have the discretion, as the chairman just said before, to allow people to speak about a site plan, even though it's technically not an advertised public hearing. So if you wanted to let them, in my opinion, if you wanted to let them speak on any of these, all three of these applications, they don't have to distinguish in their presentation whether they're talking about one or the other. You can let them speak. And with regard to the totality of the project, so it's impossible for the public to sort out, the three separate criteria that they're going to be applying. I think that's overkill, in my opinion. And when you make a decision, you have different criteria you apply as to whether one is approved or not. But I think that's something you can't do.
So we're all okay?
So my single large concern is resolved. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
While we have understood here, let me just say one other thing which I want to correct. One thing I said before, I think I said that the employees are not permitted with home handicraft industry. That's not correct. 2 employees are allowed with home handicraft industry as they are with office.
2.
2, yes,
The same
non-resident
2.
employees.
Employees, not residents of the
Not that that's for
residential
this application,
orders.
I'm proposing that, but I've misspoke before.
Thank you.
So we got one more, Rich.
So, okay, now we have a real light duty one. We have a petition from Guilford Youth and Family Services to amend zoning code 273-2 and add a new section to Article 12 regarding medical marijuana dispensary and production facility. Low impact. Receive and set public hearing date for December 2nd. Can I get a motion to?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I really don't want to be chairman anymore. Walmart's dealt with, planning committee.
We're going to wait until...
Oh, can we put in the cupolas now, or do we have to wait?
We were going to wait.
We're going to
We're
wait.
going to wait until it got drafted and then bring it in the next meeting, I think, once it got cleaned up.
We have an opportunity to approve some minutes. This is from 10/7.
I'm abstaining.
Recuse myself.
I recuse myself.
Recuse. We are.
Well, no, because I reviewed the video, so I can technically say aye.
Yeah, but you have to have 4 people. George went home.
Well, no, because if we have guys abstaining.
Oh, I'll abstain.
So then we have a quorum because.
Well, and I did see the tape, so I can vote on it too.
3 to nothing.
I saw the tape.
And the score.
And I read the minutes. So I guess I can vote then.
3 to 0.
Yeah.
4 to 0.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the October 7th regular meeting.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Abstain.
I'm voting.
Abstaining is the three gentlemen on the website here. Okay, can I get a motion? This has been a long meeting.
Move to close.
Second. All those in favor? Good night, everybody.